Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. I'll be your astrologer this week. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Happy Sunday to those of you guys who are watching on Sunday morning. We've got a lot going on this week, So this is where you're really gonna start to kind of feel the energies ramp up. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about it in my monthlies and my horoscopes. Please continue to keep coming back to the channel throughout the next few weeks. We're putting out videos Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, so you guys can have more in-depth breakdowns into some of these transits. But big headlines would be Mercury going direct. We're actually going to be seeing that happening today. So the Mercury retrograde will officially be over. Yeah, there's still some shadow. Keep in mind when planets go direct, generally there is some theme revolving around that planet making headlines. So we're going to hear a lot more about banks and money and resources and anything in regards to Taurus over these next few days. We're also going to be seeing a new moon in Taurus. I joked, and I guess some of you guys like that in the comments. The cow party in the sky is setting up this week. Maybe the tail end of Taurus season. However, it's going to go off with a bang. We're going to have a very, very powerful new moon in Taurus. A bulk of my presentation will be about that today, so just stay tuned. I'll take you guys through the aspects, talk about the Sabian symbol, and obviously give you guys all of my predictions for the 12 rising signs along with tarot. We have the setup of the grand fixed T-square that's going to be taking place involving Mars in Leo, Pluto in Aquarius, and the North and South Node in Taurus and Scorpio. Very, very potent, very, very strong energy. There's a lot of powerful shifts that are happening. And when we see squares taking place to Pluto, we know that it's do or die time. And when we see squares taking place to the nodes, it represents this collective need to grow, move out of old patterns, move closer and further towards our destiny. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well this week. Those T-squares are heavy, so just forewarning anybody who's got anything around 0 to about 3 or 4 degrees of the fixed signs, sun, moon, rising, or personal planets, pay attention. You're going to feel this. This will impact you. And then finally, we're going to wrap the week up with the sun entering into Gemini, a sun trine Pluto, the beginning of Gemini season. And it's just going to be very different energy, especially now that we're going to be moving into a mercurial-based solar period. Mercury's now direct, so that's going to be really helpful. And yeah, we're just going to rock and rattle and roll all week long. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a Western and evolutionary astrologer. I focus on really taking a look at the transiting planets, interpreting the Sabian symbols, and also working with tarot to better understand, what's kind of going on out there. So if you guys like my content, please click the button below. Make sure you're subscribed so that way you're alerted as to when I have content coming out on the channel. And if things get heavy, you can find me here on Friday evenings. I'm always here at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like to get a reading, we do tarot and astrology readings. We alternate every other week. So you'll be able to catch me here doing astrology readings this incoming Friday. Always check my links on my community tab. Generally, I'll post it a day or two early so you guys can sign up and get into the queue and make a donation for a reading. Equally, big thank you to those of you guys who donate to my channel and to those of you guys who join my memberships. You guys make it possible for me to keep creating this long form content. And stay tuned because sometime in the next week or so, I'm going to be probably dropping my link for my Venus in Leo, the Venus retrograde webinar that I'm going to be doing hopefully sometime in the month of June. So stay tuned for that. If you're not already subscribed to my news, I guess my news chain, please do subscribe. You can go to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. It's going to pop up and prompt you to sign up for my newsletter. I don't have a newsletter. It's just so you can join my my list. So that way when I have courses or if I have lectures that come out or specials, you'll be alerted as for that. And while you're there, check out my courses. I've got my Astro 201 that's up now if you want to learn all about transits and making predictions in astrology. I also have beginners tarot and astrology and much, much more. All right, thanks for letting me do my shameless plug. Let's get right into the transits of today, May 14th Sunday. So like I said, Mercury is going to be going direct. And so Mercury has been retrograde the last couple of weeks. We have seen breakdowns, right, with financial stuff. We've seen a lot more banking collapses going on. We've heard a lot more talk involving, at least here in the United States, in regards to our budget and whether or not we're hitting that debt ceiling and if we're going to be defaulting on some stuff. Part of that's connected to the Pluto return that's still kind of in the mix, but nevertheless, that has been very much tied to this Mercury retrograde. Now, Taurus obviously is a sign that's an earth sign, so it's about physical shifts, and Mercury can be about systems. So issues revolving around information coming to light in the financial world, banking problems, all kinds of issues also relating to media, the narrative of what's coming out there. Some of the same things apply that I've kind of warned you guys about in previous weeks where I said, hey, there can be banking issues. You can have a hard time withdrawing money. There can be limitations from being able to move money on or off of exchanges. That all still applies, okay? So none of that has really gone away. And I'm anticipating that both with some of the other squares that we're going to be seeing between Mars and Pluto, and just, you know, that new moon in Taurus as we're coming into the dark moon, I do think we're going to hear more revolving around these topics. It's been so interesting to hear from so many people. I don't always get a chance to respond back to all the comments, but I do read them. And I get a lot of emails from you guys too. And I've heard a lot of people just talking all over the world about how they've been affected, new rules revolving around cash, and, you know, if you're taking so much money out or if you're spending so much money. And so I think that that's interesting that it is playing out globally in a lot of different ways. But I anticipate, like I said, with Mercury going direct, that we're going to hear more about this stuff. Obviously, those of you guys who are really sticklers for making sure that you wait until the retrograde has completed to, like, let's say, sign agreements, buy things, or, you know, enter into contracts. Now is a good time to do that moving forward. So technically you're in the clear. Keep in mind, though, that we are coming into a dark moon. We are also going to be seeing that there are still some squares going on between Mercury and Pluto, and also we're going to see a square that's going to be kind of going on between Mercury and Mars. So there's better timing for that. If I see it, I'll give it to you. Or you guys can wait until after we get out of the shadow period. I did a whole video on Mercury retrograde in Taurus. If you guys want to check that out, I give you guys all the information for the dates and also the pre and the post shadow. Also later today, we're going to see that the moon is going to be continuing to move through the sign of Pisces. And I'm pretty sure I talked to you guys last week about how on Saturday, the Moon-Saturn conjunction was very emotional, very spiritual, and it was great for commitments relating to the sacrifices that we make for the things or the people that we love. Now on Sunday, early in the morning, we start to see the moon coming into conjunction with Neptune. So this is kind of really laying the groundwork for what are we visualizing? What are we imagining? What are we manifesting? What do we feel, right? Because Pisces is a mutable water sign, so it can be about the changes of of our emotions. It can also talk a lot about collectively where some of us are withdrawing. We're feeling a little drowsy, tired, maybe a little lethargic. And obviously connections to Neptune, it's all about what you do with it. So on one hand, you can totally bliss out and hang out by the pool and listen to music or meditate, take a walk on the beach. Other people will choose to go to the lower octaves of this particular planet, and it'll be about drugging and also secrets and anything revolving around like mental health, and there can be some paranoia that can come up with the later degrees of Pisces. So be mindful of what you do with this energy today. I love that it's going to conjunct Neptune. It's going to trine out Mars, and for me, it's been a lot of like really getting in alignment with what our soul purpose is, or what our spiritual passions are, or what we're here to kind of be warriors for in a spiritual sense. Obviously, Mars is still not entirely thrilled being in the sign of Cancer, but similar to the beginning of the Mars in Cancer transit, I talked to you guys about how Mars would first make a trine to Saturn, revolving around commitment and form, and really like laying the groundwork for what direction Mars is going to be going in. Even though Mars and Saturn can be more about what we're building and, you know, the commitment to staying in line and staying the path, in water signs, it's been more about listening to our emotions and like our emotions being the guides for what is and is not working for us. So it's interesting now to see Mars come into a trine with Neptune, because it can be now this awareness that's coming to light that's like, okay, this is my direction and this is how passionate I am about my spiritual practice or what's going on in the world, or anything revolving around also, you know, out in the media, we're hearing a lot about immigration. I try not to like comment too much about stuff, you know, what people say in the comments. I know it's a really intense time out in the world. I do my best to really try not to get political. I have very strong opinions personally, and I try to kind of stay middle of the road with you guys because I don't want to be divisive. And I've had a number of people who have made comments about immigration, okay? And they've been making these comments on like the Jupiter videos and stuff, and not to school you guys, but Jupiter has nothing to do with immigration. That's going to be more Saturn, okay? Because Saturn deals with borders, limitations, and walls. So Saturn being in Pisces right now, yeah, there is a talk about whether or not there is a dissolving of the borders, if the borders are not functioning, if we're not really clearly seeing what's happening within borders. It's a hot topic here in the United States, especially along the southern border. And definitely with Mars in a trine to Saturn, we have seen that there's been problems, and there has been more coming in, because Mars is about kind of being an intruder. So there is some truth to that. I don't think that you need astrology to justify that statement. And now we're seeing Mars coming into a trine with Neptune. And so I feel like there's going to be more talk, especially with the moon activating this, revolving around, okay, well, you know, does the general public really know what's going on, right? A lot of people are not aware, or a lot of people, I think, are assuming that we are just covered. And so I'm anticipating there's going to be some interesting media that's going to come out revolving around this trine, revolving around the reality of the situation. As many of you guys know, that there's like been an expired amendment or an order that has taken place, and now we are seeing lots of people who are coming through illegally through the southern border, literally breaking and busting through walls and fences. You guys, if you go do your research, you'll see this. Once again, nothing new, right? But we are seeing that it's a multitude of different backgrounds. And so Pisces can be about more connected to foreigners, but from like faraway lands. That can be a Jupiter energy as well. So Jupiter coming into conjunction with the North Node is also going to be about mass immigration. It's not just something we're going to see in the United States. And with Jupiter coming into conjunction with the North Node, people are looking for places where there's food, where there's shelter, where there's resources, where there's jobs. And as we start to see Jupiter and Saturn sextile, we're going to start to see where there is a need to kind of pull back and restrict and make some changes revolving around that. We're also seeing in certain places where really heavy restriction revolving around immigration laws is heavily impacting the ability to build and construct or grow. So we're going to see where in some places, you know, some of these decisions are impacting the ability for people to go and work in construction or work in agriculture. I'm not here to discuss whether or not it's right or wrong. That's your guys' decision. You guys can talk about that amongst yourselves. You guys can equally go get involved, and you can vote and do something about this and start talking about the fact that, you know, you don't like what's happening and create change. So just to kind of give you guys more insight, I do hear your feedback, but this is going to be happening everywhere. Okay, it's going to happen everywhere. We're gonna see it across the board. Watch what's coming out with some of the content. I anticipate the videos that are being shown of people just literally busting into places and crossing rivers and, you know, going through fences and things now suddenly becoming more visible. We're going to realize like, oh wow, like this is big. And it's not even necessarily Latin American people. I mean, we're seeing that coming through the southern border, but Saw some really ignorant comments in my comment section with people, you know, making racist comments, and like, it's not gonna be tolerated. So it has less to do with ethnicity. It has more to do with the fact that you've got people wanting to come here who are wanting freedom. So it's been interesting doing a little research, looking into some of the media. Stuff that I've been seeing is that we have a lot of people who are coming from China through the southern border. And so Pisces can be what's hidden, it can be what's far away, it can be things that we wouldn't see coming, and then Mars is just, you know, intruders in general. So it does correlate, but I, to be honest with you, think that there's going to be more that's going to play out, because we're going to see Saturn and Jupiter in a sextile all year. It's going to be like this, you know, political kind of talking point that's like, well, do we allow people to come in and you know, guide the process of immigration legally? Do we hold back from, you know, making it easy to get here? But how does that impact jobs, right? And so to each their own, whatever you believe on that. But it does reflect in the astrology that it's going to go down pretty much all year long. Now, this topic's going to get heated as well as we see Mars go into Leo, make an opposition to Pluto. It's going to come into a T-square with Jupiter. So we're going to hear more about children and younger people coming through the border, and we're going to hear about families and things of that nature. So stay tuned. Also, something we're going to see as the Moon-Neptune conjunction is happening, we're going to see sextiles between the Moon and also Uranus, and the Moon and the Sun. And so this is like the last nice aspect that we're going to see happening, these sextiles prior to the new moon. When we see aspects between Pisces, which is about the grand vision, right? The manifestation, the dream, the message that we see in the tarot cards, the breakthrough that we have in therapy, the dream that we have, helping us build towards our future. Now, this can also be the breakdown. So likely we're going to start seeing things breaking down with this phase and kind of like being dissolved. So that way we can build something new. And that's what I like about the new moon that we're going to have this week. There's going to be lots of opportunity to kind of end something and then start anew. So I'll talk about that in a second. The last aspect that we'll see that will also be positive will be the moon coming into conjunction with Jupiter. It'll be an exalted moon in Taurus, the first conjunction we're going to see with Jupiter in Taurus, and a conjunction to the North Node, but it's all going to immediately start squaring Pluto, and it's going to start coming into a square with Mars. So with that being said, what would traditionally be like a very abundant positive aspect is not going to play out that way. So this is the last kind of nice working aspect that we're going to have with the moon prior to the new moon in Taurus. Now, this is going to take us into Tuesday. And as we get into Tuesday, we are going to wake up and the moon is going to be in the sign of Aries. Okay, so it's going to be action-packed, action-oriented. And the big aspect that we're going to see this day is that Mars will form its trine to Neptune. So when I talk about that spiritual, you know, direction, the purpose, the sacrifices that we make, what our spiritual direction is, it can also be about using that energy of Mars where we're really tapping into our emotions. And in Cancer, it can be our sensitivity, our touchiness, our protectiveness that's really kind of getting turned up. And connecting to Neptune, I could see this as like us getting on edge because we feel like something is coming. And so we're feeling the need to protect and prepare. Prepare what? Our homes, our families, our safe spaces. It can also be a time where some of us are learning to be more compassionate and being warriors for people who need support and nurturing and protection and home. So it's all going to be about what you do with this energy. I feel like there's so much going on here, right? Like we're seeing a building square between Mars and Jupiter, which will inflame this energy. In the cardinal signs, it's going to be action oriented. So usually an opening square between Mars and Jupiter is going to bring up this theme of overreacting, right? Thinking too quickly, jumping to conclusions. And being that it's re-triggering that solar eclipse in Aries from last month. And we've got kind of some mutual reception, not exactly, but kind of, right? We've got Mars in a sign of Jupiter's exaltation, right, Cancer, and we've got Jupiter in the sign of Mars. So even though they're kind of saying the same thing, which can be about self-righteousness and the need to defend and act quickly and protect, and how that sense of reaction leads also to some quick and heavy emotional, need to reflect. So yeah, that's a really extreme aspect. And then we've got Mars that's coming into the square with Pluto. Now, eventually this will materialize as a either a T-square, right, between Mars opposed Pluto, square Jupiter and Taurus, or if you look at it, including the nodes like I do, it will be a grand fixed cross in the early degrees of the fixed signs. Any which way you slice it, Mars is very much reacting to Jupiter, and Jupiter in Aries, we're seeing more anger, frustration, hostility, but we're also seeing a lot of like self-righteousness. We're seeing a lot of people who are either following the path of integrity and really sticking up and standing up and defending themselves and educating themselves and sharing with other people, or you're seeing people who are becoming very argumentative and very combative. So this energy is in the skies. And we're going to see Jupiter in its final moments in the sign of Aries on the 15th, before on the 16th it moves into the sign of Taurus. So let's take that through. So then on the 16th, which is Tuesday, we're going to see Jupiter enter into the sign of Taurus. That's going to happen sometime midday. I've done videos on that. If you guys haven't already seen my Jupiter ingress video, I did one originally, I think like a month or two ago. And just this last week, I did one as well, touching on the importance of really understanding the sextiles to Saturn and understanding the squares to Pluto, and more or less that Pluto is like the fertilizer that's creating some situation where something dies off, so that way something else can be reborn. And I talk about how this new moon in Taurus is so important because it's so fertile, it's so ripe with the opportunity to set new intentions. But I think that any which way you slice it, even if we were looking at it from Monday's moon square Venus is kind of an ouch, because there are some emotional things that are coming up where people are acting impulsively and not always taking into consideration relationships, or people are not always taking into consideration what home or family needs are. And then finally on Tuesday, the moon's square or incoming square to Mars. And we'll see that play out all day. Obviously, like I said, if you are a Taurus sun, moon, or rising, especially the first like 5 degrees or so, you're going to feel this ingress the most. Jupiter comes in, it expands, and it brings you something. I've heard lots of really interesting comments. People have been like, my Jupiter's here, my Jupiter's there. What does it mean? Book a reading, because it's going to be different for every person. You're going to get a lot of information listening to your whole sign rising report. So whether you listen to the horoscopes or my Jupiter video, and I'm going to do another video on the T-squares this week, so I'll get you covered on that. But just know that Jupiter wants to bring more, right? It wants to bring blessings in the sign of Taurus, more resources, right? More stability. I think an opportunity to really reflect and expand on your own personal values. For an ascendant, it might be an expansion or a new beginning in regards to yourself, your goals, your body, some kind of change, maybe even a move. For a sun, it can be anything in regards to your own personal happiness, and it can be really positive for your career. And for a moon, it can bring new home or family situations that are extremely abundant. This will affect everybody though. So you don't have to have placements in Taurus. The conjunction will be more personal if you do. But because it's going to touch on the North Node where we're all growing collectively, Jupiter has a little bit of sweetness for each and every one of the 12 signs. And we're definitely going to feel this because it's going to come into some bumps with some other fixed placements later in the week. Now, that's pretty much the biggest transit of Tuesday the 16th. I anticipate as the moon is getting into the sign of Taurus the next day, that's where you're really going to feel like it packs a punch. So let me take you to the 17th. So we wake up in the morning and the moon is just ingressing into the sign of Taurus. Now, I think you guys have heard me say this before, but 0 degrees of signs are very potent, okay? It represents the purest form of that particular sign. So 0 degrees of Aquarius can feel like the most chaotic. It can feel the most rebellious. It can feel like the most upheaval, change, and revolution. Pluto being in the sign of Aquarius is about this collective future that is coming through, but it's going to be as a result of a breakdown. So society is going through a change. That new society that will then be born, because that's what Pluto is here to do, will be because of what we end up giving up or what we end up kind of releasing or letting go or exposing, right? And then we've got 0 degrees of Taurus, which is going to touch on the most conservative, the most earthy, the most natural, the most organic, the most abundant, what feels the best, what smells the best, what tastes the best. It's very rich, right? Because this is a Venus-based sign. So like I said, love to see the moon in its exaltation. I love to see moon conjunct Jupiter, but I feel like that conjunction right off the bat in a square to Pluto, I'm anticipating is like gonna rock and rattle and roll from the 17th on. To be honest with you, the aspects of the T-squares, which weren't really gonna even set up until the 20th, is gonna be very volatile until about the 6th of June. So some of you guys who are astrologically sensitive, or you have placements in the early degrees of the fixed signs, you're gonna start feeling this right around the 17th. But this is gonna give us just a little taste of, holy cow, pun intended, this is what's changing, because the moon represents the collective. Here is this ton or this huge flow of money that's coming into something. Now, I don't think you need to be like an astrologer or a psychic or a financial advisor or analysis or anything to anticipate that when some of the things that are coming over the next few weeks and months break down, you're going to see a flood of money come into the market. People are going to want to jump in, they're going to want to invest, they're going to want to buy things when they're on sale. I don't really think the banks are crying the blues about some of the stuff that's going on in the world, because some of the big banks are going to move in and they're going to buy everything pennies on the dollar. So we're going to see a huge flood of money come into the banks. So this is actually going to be happening right around, I think, this lunar ingress. So this is going to be what, on 17th? So this is going to be on Wednesday. So I'm watching to see what happens if a bunch of people are trying to jump in, or if all of a sudden we see an upward swing in the markets. And it can be an indication that people are maybe like loading up and they're getting ready to ride something up before they cash out, or that there's a bunch of money coming in, potentially signaling that, you know, people are kind of preparing for some of the breakdown, right? The squares to Pluto are super intense. You know, just in general, the Jupiter in Taurus square Pluto in Aquarius, to put it simply, I call it growing pains, right? Because Jupiter wants to grow, especially in Taurus. And I talked about in my video with you know, Jupiter going into Taurus, that this is your garden, right? There is a very amazing, abundant opportunity wherever Taurus is in your chart. And there is something that is just ready to grow. It just needs to be planted, and it will be sprouting later this fall. And then you'll really see it kind of like expand in the spring of 2024. So if you use the astrology appropriately, you can work with it this week, and you can look at where Taurus is in your chart and go, okay, there's a lot of growth in this area of my life coming in the next year. How do I come up with a 12-month plan, and what intentions am I setting? So if this is the growth, the sextile to Saturn is the pot, right? So it's basically the vision, or the commitment, or the container, if you will. Saturn contains things. And this, I think, is about, you know, using faith to help kind of further your spiritual or financial growth, right? Because Jupiter can be spiritual. It can be using a little bit of faith, or meditation, or visualization, or prayer, or just time sitting and, like, you know, really doing the work to come up with the step-by-step process of what you're going to be building, knowing that it's going to take time. And so these aspects, chef's kiss, I love that. It really helps kind of even things out. I'm also loving all these planets in Cancer sextiling, because that's the emotional need that I need to protect, So what can I build? So what's the plan? It's all working in unison. So as we see planets go through Cancer this season, it's all going to be watering that little sprout that's going to be growing into a full blossoming plant within about a year. Now there's always a catch, and the catch is the squares to Pluto. And yes, Pluto is like the villain, but Pluto has a good reason to kind of be the bad guy. It's basically showing you like, hey, this thing's got to change. It's got to die off, or, you know, this is like something that's dead or toxic. And some of the endings that will come from this Pluto placement in your chart will be prompting the growth. Can it be crisis or pain or death as the catalyst for change? Absolutely. Can this be that we're seeing collective groups rebelling and pushing back and saying, no, we're not doing this? Can it be that there is like a dismantling and a breakdown of society or a breakdown of political groups? Yeah, and it can put a lot of pressure on the financial system. So that way we are able to go, this is a crisis. How can we learn more? How can we do more? We see this with people who are now starting to talk more openly about the World Economic Forum and some of the plans for the future. We're seeing this in terms of how big tech and AI and you know, this globalization thing that's been going on is really not helping us when it comes to the little guy and being able to feel safe and secure and have a life of abundance, not even excess, just abundance, a roof over our head, food, resources, and also having knowledge about you know, finances. So all in all, growing pains, right? And this is going to be bringing out a lot of shadow work, because squares to Pluto is that, exposing hidden money, financial crimes, tax issues, political drama, waste of resources. Probably the thing that really gets me the most is just watching how much money is going out of this country, going to fund wars in other places and beef up borders in other countries, and create a lot of chaos for a lot of other parts of the world when we are paying for it. Our tax dollars are paying for it. We've got people who are on the streets that can't, you know, afford to live, quite frankly. We've got families that can't afford to survive, and people who are going to default on mortgages and all kinds of things. And the country, and maybe it's just me, but the last couple of years since the pandemic has gotten increasingly just more in dire strait. I guess I don't know how to put it to words, but it's really disheartening to see that people work so hard and their tax dollars are supposed to be going towards education and programs and, you know, infrastructure and things that you would think that we would have, but we're not getting that. But there's tons of money that's going out, and we're also facing just this looming kind of debt crisis. It's some pretty scary stuff. So a lot of this Jupiter square is going to be really highlighting where the wealth inequality and these, you know, top 0.1%ers are really dictating and determining a lot of what we, the people, have. And it's going to definitely create more waves of chaos in the financial system. But without that purge, right, without that kind of death wave that Pluto brings, we would not have the opportunity to grow. So yes, all of this Jupiter Taurus energy is sweet, but it comes as a result of something that is quite sour. So this is the fertilizer. Pluto is the fertilizer, basically, and it's what comes in and is dead, and all the stuff that you kind of have to, you know, work through or dig up or deal with in order to really create the growth that we need. If you guys haven't checked out that video, check it out. And this will be in play for like a while. Okay, so we've actually had you know, Jupiter kind of forming an incoming square really for about the last month or so. If you're working with like a 5 or 6 degree orb, Jupiter's already been squaring Pluto, but it will be exact when the moon goes through. So I think you guys are definitely going to see something right around Thursday. That's Wednesday, Thursday. That's going to be quite insane, especially considering then the moon is going to continue to keep moving forward. It's going to come into contact with the North Node in the afternoon, and then Mercury. And now Mercury is direct. So I'm looking at like the news Thursday night going into Friday morning. This will be a dark moon right before we come into the new moon in Taurus. The moon will come into a conjunction with Uranus. Remember, Uranus, the dispositor, is now Pluto. So we're hearing more about economic issues and chaos going on in the financial system. And then we're going to see the moon keep moving through. come into conjunction with Uranus the next day on the 18th. And that'll be on Thursday. And the Moon-Uranus conjunction obviously shakes everybody up in regards to home, cost of living, resources. Everybody's feeling a little emotionally on edge, a little unnerved, right? As the moon's been moving through Taurus, it's been still picking up energy from Saturn and also sextiles to Neptune. So it's important to keep in mind that you create your own reality. I'm going to keep telling you guys that. You create your own reality. Working with like some meditation, taking time out in nature, staying hydrated, going for a swim, listening to music, maybe painting, maybe dancing, especially with Mars trine Neptune. I really like that as like dancing as a form of like releasing pain or frustration, or like using that influence of Neptune to kind of escape for a little bit and just have a outlet for expression. So on the 18th, we start to see the sun pick up a sextile to Neptune. And I have a hunch that part of what we're going to be hearing more about is missing resources. Okay, I'm waiting for a headline that's going to be like, where did the money go? Like, where did the money go? Or hearing about like a heist or something that gets stolen or something that gets missing. I also am looking at this incoming Mars-Pluto opposition and looking at, sextiles to Neptune and conjunctions to Uranus. I'm anticipating there's a very big earthquake coming. Where, I don't know. I'm not one of those astrologers. I can speculate, I can look at a map, but I know there are people out there who do combined astrology and looking at like seismic activity. And I'm not one of them, so I'm not going to tell you that I can do that. But I'm telling you that there's a few markers in the sky. Both we've got a stellium of planets that are in conjunction to Uranus. We have also got Mars that's coming into a square with the North Node, which is the Earth. Mars opposed Pluto makes me wonder, is it volcanic? Is there going to be something that there is going to be some kind of like high alert that there's an earthquake in the ocean that's somehow potentially affecting land? So that's something I'm kind of looking for that might take place in the next like week or two. Yeah, just a lot of like Earth activity, right? Well, there's going to be a lot of Earth activity, but watch for that. Watch for the missing resources. And Neptune is going to be about inspiration, or where we kind of get the rug, pulled over our eyes a little bit. So with the sun sextile at a Gemini degree 27, I think it's going to be about, well, what happened with the money situation? Where did money go? What did people know in the banking system that we didn't know, that was hidden information? Who was getting their money or their resources out? Who was cashing out? Where is money going into new things? I love Redacted News. I was listening to Redacted earlier today, and it was their show from yesterday. And they were talking about how, I believe it was BlackRock that just upped their ownership investment shares in Pfizer. And I was like, that's kind of interesting, because, pharmaceuticals is Neptune, it is Pisces, and we're seeing these sextiles happening to Neptune. So I'm wondering if there's money that's going to go into certain pharmaceutical companies, if there's going to go into certain hidden companies, shell companies, and just other things that people are starting to kind of invest in a range before we start to see other world events take place. Just speculation. So the moon's going to be leaving that conjunction to Uranus, which is very unsettling. So obviously in the background, right, like with that Jupiter-Pluto square, and then the moon goes through here, it's going to be very hard not to be talking about what's going on globally within the financial markets. Then the moon is going to be in its dark phase until it comes into the new moon, which will not be until Friday, the 19th. And that new moon is going to be coming in hot at 28 degrees of Taurus. So many aspects. I'm going to put a pin in it because I know it's going to take me a long time to talk to you guys about the aspects of this chart. But just know that it'll be a new moon. New moons come every 28 days. It's where we plant a new seed, giving us the opportunity to start fresh and plant intentions that will be manifesting over the next 6 months. So we'll look to the full moon that's going to be in Taurus 6 months from this date. That's going to be taking place at the end of October. There will be a lunar eclipse in Taurus that will be, I'll look at it, I'll pull it up for you guys, but I know that it's going to be in conjunction to Jupiter. So I do feel like that is going to be a more positive, particular eclipse, and a little bit easier to manage from what I remember looking at that chart. Everybody has the opportunity to have that fresh start. You just got to look at where Taurus is in your chart. So if you don't know, but you know your ascendant, I'll talk to you in a second about where that new moon intention is coming through. Just know that you have a very small working window here. Because you're going to have the new moon, and then literally within a matter of hours, the moon will ingress into Gemini, which is still positive because it's going to form a trine to Pluto before it comes into a square with Saturn. So really, if you're going to do your new moon work, I love that it's on a Friday because Friday is a Venus day. So it's a great day to do abundance work, money manifestation, earth magic, planting stuff, all of that stuff you want to do, busting out your herbs, your rocks and crystals and your plants, or if you want to make really, amazing like offering plates for your altars. I love to do that with Taurus. I like to, pull out fresh fruit and put honey and flowers and stuff out and fresh milk. To each their own, whatever you guys want to do. But this is very decadent, being that it's in the final degrees of Taurus. It's the most. And this is also in a Saturn decan. So likely some of the intentions that we're setting with this particular new moon within 6 months, we're going to see that some of those goals for having something more solid or having more or more stability will likely become solid. We'll see it really manifest. This is also like where we're taking action when it comes to knowing more about our budget, our resources, what we actually need, what we can kind of get back to basics on, right? You're going to hear with Jupiter and Taurus, a lot of people are going to be talking about the importance of food, where food comes from, how to grow your own food, the importance of organic and natural foods. And we're going to hear so much talk with Jupiter square Pluto revolving around junk food, how it affects our bowels, how it affects our reproductive organs, and also maybe more about things that are fake and plastic and synthetic and just crap that's in our food, which we know is in our food. And I think a lot of people are going to be turning to more like natural, holistic lifestyles, and they're going to be really getting involved in learning about where their food is coming from. I've been screaming this from the rooftops really since last year, just the importance of like finding a good farmer's market. I was supposed to go this week and I got rained out. I was kind of bummed out. So fingers crossed that I'm at the farmer's market right now when you're watching this, because I would really like to go. But finding a good one and maybe looking at sourcing some of your food from a local place. I've been reading and listening to a lot of different perspectives on what people are saying in terms of what's coming in the food industry. Heard a really interesting, kind of far out, but maybe not so far out interview the other day where somebody who was big in the food industry was basically saying they anticipate within 10 years the dairy, that meat and dairy is going to be like a thing of the past, that a mass majority of the meat products that are coming in 10 years will be synthetic meat, or they're going to be meats that are like lab grown, or they're going to be plant-based meats or insect-based meats. And also saying that the dairy industry as we know it will be gone. It's not going to be easy to get milk and cream and cheese, that we are going to be having stuff that's once again synthetic, or stuff that's been kind of grown or created in labs. And the day of going and being able to like have farm animals, if that's, that's kind of rare these days, but being able to have that is going to be few and far between, and most of us are going to be having bugs or nut milk. So if that's not your future, if that's not your reality, now is a really good time to maybe start thinking about community efforts to find ways to be able to support either local people. I joked, but it's apparently it's a thing, like, like farm sharing. Like you can have multiple individuals who are like, yes, we would all like to own a cow. So we're all going to buy the cow together. One person's going to house it on their property. The other person's going to be responsible for, processing and bottling. And then somebody else is going to be responsible for, like feeding and like milking the cow. And I know this sounds like super crazy, but I think that's going to be a thing. Is it going to be like cow, fun sharing, or I don't even know what that would be called. It sounds so silly. Let me know what you guys think. But I think that's going to be a thing of the future. I think that we know that where Uranus is, it's what is unusual and rebellious and futuristic. But Jupiter's hanging around going like, yeah, it doesn't sound so crazy. That could be quite lucrative. So we might hear a lot more about people who are choosing lifestyles of farm life and farmsteading and, you know, natural living. I think that's going to be a big thing over the next couple of years. So we'll see that new moon come through. I'll come back to that in just a second and give you guys my whole rundown because there's some fixed stars connected to this. It's reactivating an eclipse point from last year. The list goes on. So let's take you guys through to the 20th. And we wake up in the morning and Mars will be entering Leo. So Mars enters Leo. Where it is a sign that is also fixed and it's ruled by the sun. So I think we're going to see a lot of like defending pride or ego. I think we're going to see a need to really be focusing on being brave and taking the first steps. And I see this as like a call to action, right? Because that's what the sun is. The sun, or the connection to Leo, is about our heart's purpose and where we feel like we need to expand and express ourselves. So Mars moving into a fixed fire sign is going to be very much about drama and what is theatrical and what's out in the open and not really caring what other people think. So we have to really pay attention that we have to keep the ego in check. I would say that with Mars going into Leo, regardless of the aspects. But the fact that Mars will form the opposition to Pluto and then the square to Jupiter, and while Mars is between, you know, 0 and let's say like 4 or 5 degrees, it's squaring all this stuff. And Mars is going to move a lot faster than Pluto and a lot faster than Jupiter. So that square from the 20th on is like on fire. The last 10 days of the month is just, it's a lot. It's a lot. So you guys are going to see how it's going to play out in the world. I have a hunch with Mars in the sign of performers and people who are creative or actors with an opposition to Pluto that we're going to see a very significant performer transition or die. It can be a very significant anything. It can be a pop star. It could be somebody who's a really prominent singer because we've got Jupiter in Taurus. And the fact that Mars will square the nodes, I think we're going to hear some really big news out in like the celebrity world revolving around like a passing or a transition of someone. With Mars in opposition to Pluto, okay, so we see this opposition every 2 years. It's not unusual, but it's unusual now that we've got Pluto in Aquarius. This is the very, very first opposition and or square that we're going to see now that Pluto is in Aquarius, because Pluto moved into Aquarius when Mars was still doing its dance in Gemini or going into Cancer. So this is the real first 180-degree angle where we're being confronted with something. I never candy coat things, right? Jupiter squares we can manage, right? Like Jupiter square Pluto is like, yeah, this sucks, but how do we make lemonade? But the Mars opposed Pluto square Jupiter is not going to be so easy to navigate, and squares push us to act, to react to something. All month long, from this point forward, actions have consequences. So if you take an action, it can have deathly consequences, right? And it can be dangerous, especially because Mars can be about cutting or heat or blades or cars or guns, and the opposition to Pluto is very confrontational and combative. Prepare yourselves, get ready for a whole new wave of gun debates. This is going to be a thing, especially with Mars and Leo. It's going to be revolving around schools and younger people and education. And then with the squares to Jupiter, it's going to be about laws, because Jupiter is more connected to legislation, and whether or not it pays to have teachers that are educated in firearm, tactics, or, being able to be educated on, how to defend themselves or defend students. I think we're going to hear a lot more about that. I'm anticipating this is going to also roll out a whole new theme of potential gun laws and gun regulation, possibly, because Pluto is in a Saturn-based sign. But I think that we're going to see more of this just out in the world. That's also connected to the new moon in Taurus. So there's other connections to that I'll bring up as well. With Mars in opposition to Pluto, right, in fixed signs, which do not want to change, angry, feeling limited, acting out, acting entitled. Entitlement's going to be a really big thing. It's going to be, I think, especially with the archetype of Leo, younger people, right? I'm kind of like in this weird age where I'm definitely not a Gen Zer, and I am kind of, I guess I'm a millennial. I'm 33, almost 34, but I'm kind of like watching, you know, the people who are like in their 40s and then the people who are in their 20s, and I'm like, both sides are kind of crazy. What's going on here? Like, I try to stay really centered, but I think the debate, a hot debate, is going to be about younger people. And if you're a younger person who's watching this, please don't take offense to anything. I'm just reading the astrology, but the entitlement that's going to come from Mars squaring Jupiter is younger people going, we are entitled to have this, right? And whether it's being able to go and get money out of the bank and suddenly you can't, or it's being able to, you know, have certain rights and freedoms and you feel like they've been stripped away from you. I also will remind all of my young investors and traders, my crypto people, some of you guys are in for a rude awakening. If you've been riding the crypto train, if you've been riding the stock market train and things have been going well, not a time to get cocky, because some of you guys could lose your shorts in this situation, because younger people, right, Mars and Leo, with the squares to Jupiter and the squares to the South Node, can indicate where if you rush into something too soon, there could be losses. What do you mean I can't get my money off the exchange type of stuff, right? And there's some weird stuff going on anyway. I mean, I've thought that for some time, but even more so just looking at some of the trends of what's going on with the astrology. Do not risk any money that you're not potentially willing to lose. Now, by the same token, Jupiter in the North Node is about growth. Right? It is about investment. So I'm not saying don't invest. Once again, I'm not a financial advisor. All of this is for entertainment purposes. But I have to tell you guys, for some of you, big risk, big reward. Some of you guys might look at things and go, wow, this thing is severely, you know, underpriced. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to buy something because I know long-term it's going to be a good investment. And that may be the case, especially with some of the energies, which do indicate some of these investments may pay off, especially in the fall of 2023 and even more so next year. My point is that where we take risks is Leo or the 5th house. So Mars will square the nodes, which means we're going to be pushed to take some kind of an action, and those actions are going to have repercussions. And it's going to be maybe people finding out that there's going to be new taxes or new regulations revolving around cryptocurrency or around just taxes in general. Being that Mars in Leo is going to deal with children, I think we're going to hear a lot more revolving children, children's rights, parents' rights in regards to children, and also all of this stuff that's going on with the trans discussions. I think that's going to get louder. Rights revolving around children and who is deserving of having children, because Taurus is about life, right? The North Node in Jupiter is about life. So I've found it really interesting because I've noticed a trend that I'm seeing a lot of younger people that are like, yeah, like, sure, I could have a 9-to-5 job and I could do that, but like, why? When I could be married or be baking bread or be having children or be, you know, farmsteading. Very North Node in Taurus. And it's interesting to see some people going in that direction. Some younger people are going to go, no, I'm all about the future of tech and in this evolution of where things are going and what's evolving, and like, you know, whatever path you choose. I'm not here to determine what's right or wrong, but the divide you're really going to start to see with these oppositions and these squares. And I do feel like it is important for younger generations to be heard. When we start to look at how grim the future looks with things economically and environmentally, and yeah, I think that you're going to hear a lot more about just angrier younger people who are going to be like not having it with some of these older people that are just sitting in politics, in Congress, in Senate, that are like the crypt keeper, that are just sitting there and not really doing anything about future generations. So I think we're going to hear more movement revolving around a push for younger people to get involved, and also be talking about that there needs to be like this clean out politically. And more revolving around who should have children, what economic classes of people are or are not having children. We're going to hear more about this topic of population and whether or not, you know, people are believing that we have too many people, or maybe that we're actually starting to look at some of the numbers for some places in the world where there are falling fertility rates and population decline, right? We're going to hear more about some of that stuff as well. So that's a really heavy energy. Yes, the moon is going to be in Gemini, so things should be light, and it's picking up that energy of Mercury, but the moon is coming into a square with Saturn. So it's going to be hard to communicate, get around, navigate, issues with clarity, issues also with information and media. Then that's going to take us into the 21st, which is going to be next Sunday. And we're going to wake up Sunday morning, and we're waking up to a moon square Neptune. So feeling a little confused, not having clarity, not being able to get information across very clearly. There can be some breakdown also with relaying of information, cloudiness in the media, stuff like that. Sun and moon in Gemini, I mean, is busy. This is a busy day. We've got the sun trine Pluto, which I really like. I'll talk about this in a second when I get to the new moon, but just know that new moon is at 28 degrees. So we've got 28, 29, 0, and 1 degree. So we've got about 4 days-ish where the sun, whether it's in Taurus or it's in Gemini, is trining Pluto. So it's interesting that that does touch on the topic of transformations and what needs to end in order for new opportunities to come through, right? Building off of that same energy of the Pluto squares. Empowerment comes to mind. You know, the sun trine Pluto, once again, is 0 degrees. In an air placement is saying the opportunities are endless. Endless opportunities for conversation, coming together. And you guys are going to love the Sabian symbol because this is one I could not agree with more for this particular new moon. But I think this is going to encourage groups of people to realize what situations are going on in the world and sit down and learn how to communicate, share openly, have diverse opinions, ideas, all of that stuff. But yeah, we've got a sun square Saturn setting up and a moon square Neptune setting up, and there's going to be issues revolving around tone and information and clarity. And whenever we see squares in the mutable signs involving Gemini, it's media. Pisces, it can be about religious groups or, you know, belief systems or things that are going on, you know, internationally. Sometimes religion and ethnicity can kind of come into the mix as well, although we tend to see that more with Sag, but still, it's kind of in the skies. Okay, so let me take you guys to the new moon, because I know that's what you really want to see, and that's why you've been listening to me go on and on. So we've got this new moon that's going to take place in the sign of Taurus, May 19th, 2023. It'll be 10:53 a.m. my time. I'm Central. So that means it's going to be 8:53 a.m. Pacific time, 11:53 a.m. Eastern time. I know we've got people all over the world. So if you were in other places, please adjust your time zones accordingly. Appreciate it. I really, really wanted to go in depth in this video and talk to you guys about a lot of things that I was noticing about what's going on with the financial markets. And I really wanted to talk to you guys also about some interesting things that I picked up because the New York Stock Exchange is about to have its birthday. The birthday is actually going to be, I believe, on the 17th. Then I started looking at how, you know, it's a Leo rising chart. It's got Sun and Mercury in the 10th, and Uranus is going to come into conjunction with Mercury there. And I was looking at all of these like sequences of the last several times, like the last 100 to 200 years or so, that we have seen similar transits. And I really wanted to give you guys that presentation, but I was like, I'm going to lose everybody on this because it's going to be too long. So just know that I am working on something for you guys, hopefully to put out in the next week or so, where I'm going to talk to you guys about the solar return of the stock market exchange, the New York Exchange here in the United States. And I want to talk to you guys about some of those cycles and some things that I've picked up that I think is going to give us some more clues in terms of what's coming. But I wanted to let you guys know that there is something like that that is going to be out there if you're looking for more of the financial perspective. Maybe we'll touch on the US chart and a couple other things. So I'll try to throw that into the mix for you guys this week. So this particular new moon, which we have every year whenever the sun and the moon are in Taurus together, obviously is going to represent that collective energy of the conscious and the subconscious fusing together and creating a new cycle. Taurus, ruled by Venus, the very first fixed sign of the zodiac, has connections to pleasure, food, the earth, banking, resources, what we're building. And we have a ton of planets in Taurus, so it's going to be hard for these themes not to be out in the world. When we have a new moon, it's setting the stage for us to put these seeds, plant these seeds or set these intentions. So if you are big into new moon rituals, this is a great one to do something on, particularly because there's some really nice aspects outside of the fixed stars that are connected to this new moon. And Venus is the ruler. So when working with the new moon, we always want to take into consideration the rulership. So the moon is in its exaltation in Taurus, meaning it is in a sign where the moon feels most comfortable. Because the moon changes signs roughly 2.5 days, it's a little erratic. We go through moods, right? So the moon, when it moves into a fixed earth sign ruled by Venus, is very comfortable, very stable, very secure. So this is incredibly fertile energy. Taurus obviously is connected to abundance, but it's also connected to self-esteem and stability and grounding and, planting seeds in the earth. So I talked about how this might be an amazing time to be actually planting a garden and watching a garden grow and maybe even growing larger and learning more about gardening techniques. But for some of you guys, it's putting money into a savings account. It's putting money into an investment account. It's putting some cash in an envelope and saving it. It's, investing time or energy into a new project. It's coming up with a new budget. Because Taurus has connections with resources, this is generally a really positive time to do some kind of manifestation or abundance type work. Being that it's in the sign of Taurus, I encourage you guys to work with crystals or to work with herbs. These would be the two best things that you can work with. For, a new moon in Taurus, I love to take a green candle, carve a Venus symbol into it, roll it in a little bit of, patchouli or cedar oil. Maybe put it in a glass cylinder or sprinkle some cedar or patchouli, some five-finger grass on top. Any herbs that are going to be associated with abundance. And I'll put it next to some flowers or some crystals. I'll put out, a $20 bill, or I'll write an abundance check to myself and put it with a piece of pyrite or a magnet for what I'm calling in, for what I want to possess, because that's what Taurus is about. Taurus is what we possess. So I think that everybody would really benefit, depending on where you have Taurus in your chart, doing or setting intentions when working with this full moon revolving around what you're going to be obtaining. Okay. And it's not just about show me the money, although if that's what you want to do, you can do that. I think it can be about help bring in the resources, right? Help me find the inner sense of strength and value. Help me learn the skills. Help me build the team, right? Help me invest in the company. So there's a million different ways that you guys can use this energy. I want to read to you the Sabian symbol for this. So because it's 28 degrees and change, we're going to read 29 of Taurus. Taurus 29, page 90. Two cobblers working at the table. The keyword is capability. The theme is different point of view. The symbol speaks to brainstorming and to the old adage that two heads are better than one. An image of two cobblers working at a table alludes to those situations where people talking over things as they work, and they work with their hands. A table is a place where people come together to discuss matters, share their views, and weigh in the pros and cons of things. Feet represent understanding. The act of repairing shoes thus symbolizes an attempt to strengthen the frame of reference in which learning can take place. The emphasis here is on reason, dialogue, cooperative problem solving. At its highest, the symbol represents good judgment, objective thinking, and willingness to look at all sides of the issue. The negative is psychological blocks in perception and understanding with a lack of ambition or initiative. Today, the accent is on decision making. Meetings and discussions could occupy your time today. The opportunity, the greatest advantage lies in listening to both sides before making up your mind, talking things over with someone you trust or whose opinion you value may help. Guard against idle gossip, believing everything you hear. Don't waste your time arguing over petty things. Stepping stones would be cooperation, discussion, brainstorming, communication, different points of view, sharing, assistance, problem solving, skill, and effort. I love that it talks about, putting your head together with another person and learning and having some situation where you can constructively learn from one another and engage and exchange, right? Representing the ability to repair the shoes is to strengthen the frame of reference where learning takes place. That's why we sit down and we have meals together at the dinner table, right? Everybody's able to share. That's why so many times when we go to like retreats or when we go to weekends where we have to do continuing education, we'll go there, we'll have the meeting, we'll have the lecture, everybody sits down, they have meals together, and you'll be there all day or you'll come back the next day. In office team building exercises, I remember that coming from medical field, spending lunches, meeting with like reps and talking to reps and doing training and working with product and all of that stuff. I think, Taurus teaches us that it's important to feel comfortable. There is a need to also share and experience all of the various senses. Maybe some of us are going to be more comfortable sitting down and talking about something over a meal and exchanging and discussing, our perspectives and our point of view. But being able to accept and see that there are various points of view, I think this is something that we really need right now. My eye, just knowing, that this is a really similar configuration that Tucker Carlson has. I'm curious to see what's going on with him over the next week or so. You may like him, you may not. But I'm curious to see how this plays out, knowing that he's going through some Uranus transits right now. And he was, I think, born with a similar configuration. I think he's got a sun and moon in Taurus, if I remember correctly. And also the fact that, this is technically conjunct an anaretic degree. Okay, so we're reading the Sabian symbol for 29, which is that tipping point where we start to kind of leave Taurus and then we go to kind of mutable, air all over the place, bouncy, sharing, moving a bit, Gemini. So this gives us an opportunity, I think, to weigh our options, get perspective, right? Getting the opportunity to listen to both sides of a situation before making up our mind. And if we need assistance, if we need someone's input, we'll get it. Mercury is still in Taurus, and Mercury is in a sextile to Saturn. Exactly. So we saw this aspect several times, but I think there is lots of room for guidance, right? Mercury, Jupiter, the North Node, meetings or talking to counselors or getting feedback from mentors and stuff. I think it's a wonderful time, especially people who don't usually do those things, to get feedback, right? To go and get counseling or to go and talk to somebody because you may get some really amazing advice that helps you navigate these really chaotic energies. Taurus wants slow, calm, and steady, right? It doesn't want this chaos that Mars in opposition to, Pluto is going to bring, where you're going to see people duking it out and fighting. We're going to want to see people who are going to be cool, calm, and collected, who are really taking the time to think things through and not feeling like they need to rush to jump in on a situation, whether you're bum rushing somebody at a grocery store because there's panic buying, or you're feeling like you need to rush into buying or selling some kind of financial situation or investment. Take your time, get advice, right? And try not to be too close-minded. This degree is, though, it's going to be at 28 degrees. So this is a Cancer degree. And this tells me that likely some of the new beginnings are coming from the housing market, from homeland security, right? Because we're seeing sextiles to Neptune. Things revolving around, obviously, banks and resources. One of the strongest aspects, though, with this moon is that we see the moon in a trine to Pluto. Some people refer to this as a false trine. I like to call it a dirty trine because it's out of sign or out of element, but it's still a trine. We're going to see that happen in the days to follow when the sun ingresses and when the moon ingresses into Gemini. And I think that's where we are able to say, hey, let's hear the two sides. And then the sun and the moon will ingress into Gemini, trine Pluto. And we go, wow, we're a lot stronger together than we are apart. So I think you're going to see a lot of like duality. It's interesting to see some of these changes that are happening out in the world with the media. and to see new, journalists and new groups and people coming together. You're seeing it on Twitter now. Twitter's got a new CEO. We've also got, Tucker's gone there, and I guess he's going to be doing some news. And so you may not like Tucker, and you may not also be wild about Twitter's new CEO, given her rap sheet, but these are two very different people, right? They represent two very different things. If you have somebody who's now going to be the CEO that's a woman, first of all, that's different. That's a big deal. Secondly, she's got a really interesting past history, having done work for Trump, but also having done work for the World Economic Forum, having worked for, I think it's NBC, Universal, head of advertising. She's also was very much involved in the campaigns and also all of the media revolving around, the COVID narrative. And then you got Tucker Carlson, who also equally is very controversial, somebody who not everybody likes and definitely has been very forthcoming about some of his mistakes and some of his regrets, but also is acting in a very Uranian way with his transit, saying, I want to right my wrongs and come out here and do this and do that. And so some of it may be, media theater. I'm sure a lot of it is, but that in itself to me is an embodiment of these energies, that you're bringing different people from completely different platforms coming in, and now they're going to be potentially working together. I'm curious to see how that manifests, what that brings. There's a lot of people in the conspiracy world yelling and screaming, saying it's the end of the world. And then there's a lot of people saying, well, let's give her a chance and let's see what happens. But with the sun and the moon and a trine to Pluto, it's a 2-degree orb. I see this as an ending, right? Because Pluto is literally about what is hidden and secretive and not shown and not being seen, and where there needs to be this radical change and transformation for something new to emerge, right? Something new, something abundant to emerge. And, Mars and Leo can be talent, to where some of these crisis scenarios going out in the world, it's pushing some people to show up and go, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write this movie. I'm going to, write this book. I'm going to produce this show. I'm going to finally take up dancing. Like, you're going to see a lot of people that are going to be like, that's it. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's very strong, very potent energy because of the fixed squares. But with the trines to Pluto, and ending as a result of an incoming beginning. I encourage you guys with this new moon to hold space for the new, be optimistic about what is kind of falling off, burning off, kind of getting cleared. And we're seeing this as new fertile ground that's going to be emerging, right? We've also got a moon sextile Neptune in Pisces. Hidden resources, hidden sources. Beliefs, intuitions, dreams, all very, very, very strong. Now we've got Jupiter in the sign of Taurus, so it's picking up energy as the dispositor for Neptune and also for Saturn. So we're going to start to see a lot of information coming out about what the rich are doing, how they're hiding their money, where they're investing their money, what they're doing with their resources, how taxes are kind of being pulled into the scheme. And some of the things that the elite are doing with resources and also doing when it comes to tax decisions. We're going to hear a lot about taxes. Pluto is taxes. So as Jupiter and the North Node come into conjunction, raise taxes, raise interest rates, harder to get mortgages, harder to buy houses. But we're also going to see exposure of, how some of these elite people are continuing to make the money that they're making. Right? And how that dips into the banking system and also politics. But I think that many of us have the opportunity to tap into some of our hidden resources and our intuition and our dreams. With this particular sextile, it makes us more sensitive, more empathic, more compassionate as well. We're going to see Venus in Cancer, trine Saturn in Pisces. Yeah, it's a loose trine, whatever. It's 6 degrees. So you gotta take the wins when you can. So with Venus being the ruler of this moon, Venus in the same sign as Mars, Venus trine Saturn, Venus sextile, Mercury, Venus kind of coming into a sextile with Uranus. Venus is finally in a nice position, and it can be indicating that there's room for growth of personal values, resources, investment, spending power. But for some people, it's going to be connected to Cancer-related things. It's people going, I need to stay home. I need to invest in my real estate. I need to buy land. I need to have children. I need to grow my own food. Taurus and Cancer are just so like domestic. It's so domestic. It's so natural. It's very Venus moon, mothering, nurturing, very traditional, and to some extent conservative. It is what it is. And there's heavy conservative placements in the skies right now that are going to start coming into opposition with Pluto. So when we see Mars oppose Pluto, there's going to be a pushback against that. When we see Venus oppose Pluto, there's going to be pushback against that. So you're going to see real extremes of, well, that's too conservative and that's too extreme. And we're gonna see the contrast, probably louder than we ever have before. Venus sextile Uranus and Taurus, changes in preferences, style, relationships, and also the housing market. I could see a lot of people being like, this is prompting changes in location, changes also in family, suddenly focusing more on communal living. We're going to see a lot more people buying homes together, families buying land together. Multi-generational living is going to be a theme, and that's going to be like the new unconventional thing, right? Uranus. But when Venus sextiles Uranus, it can be exciting, fun, pleasurable, socializing abilities, and the ability to kind of like change up our style, especially domestically. I'm curious to see how this might spark some stuff revolving around mortgages, somehow connecting to the crypto market, and if that's something that becomes more so mainstream. And then we've got Mars at 29 degrees of Cancer. So I mean, personally, it's like, I don't know what's the most challenging. The Mars square Jupiter, the Mars square the nodes, the Mars opposed Pluto, all of those things, if we were to break them down separately, would all be like, you got to act. You got to get the show on the road. Let's get going. And Mars in Cancer, obviously we know, is not happy. It's kind of crabby. And that final degree also represents a crisis and a turning point. So the fact that we've got the sun and the moon about to hit 29, Mars at 29, the sextile does kind of suggest that these new intentions are kind of setting up for whatever preparation is going to be going on within the home or family, what we're cutting back, changing, or severing. I think we'll hear more about this within the next 6 months, because it'll take 6 months for a new moon like this to play out. So it can be about, losses in the markets and people moving, or, like defaulting on mortgages and some things that are not entirely very good. But it can be people who suddenly decide to up and move and relocate as well. And once again, that Mars is in a square to Jupiter. It is in opposition to Pluto. It is in a square to the nodes. So that energy will be felt for a couple days until Mars leaves about 3 degrees. Critical degrees, though, tipping points. What is that Sabian symbol? I'm curious, because I know 29 degrees is like the millionaire degree. Has anybody heard that? It can be seen as the millionaire degree. So Cancer 30. Oh, I remember this Sabian symbol. A daughter of an American Revolution. The theme is a standard bearer. The symbol speaks to established tradition and the lack of sympathy with anything that threatens it. The image of a daughter of the American Revolution cautions against resistance to change, and it stresses the importance of holding only those ways going that have proved their value. The emphasis here is on integrity and the courage to live an exemplary life in faithfulness to the highest ideals of humankind. At its highest, symbol represents charismatic ability to inspire individuals to work together towards common goals within the framework of eternal values. Watch for arrogance or tyranny. The accent is on tradition and precedent. Protect those things that have proven their worth. Your greatest advantage lies in being conservative or moderate at this time. Understatement works best. Guard against resisting change out of a misguided loyalty to the past. Don't fool yourself into the tenure of length of time with any project or group that equates superiority. Quality ever trumps quantity. Tradition, heritage, background, standards, patriotism, modernism, conservatism. There's going to be a pushback against that, I mean, we're evolving. We've become modern. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, people weren't really looking at, women being the head of the household, or divorces, or gay marriage as something that's normal, but we've evolved, right? So to just assume that anybody who doesn't necessarily go along with a particular narrative or support an agenda blindly is uber conservative or transphobic or homophobic or racist. I have a feeling that we're going to see these themes come up. That's like, no, it doesn't mean that. It just means that I can be moderate and I can be in the middle. And I think that's important. We need that. It's playing on that degree also of being able to hear different perspectives. Just personally, I kind of get a little iffy about any time anybody wants to jump to conclusion and make assumptions and suggest that you're not supporting a certain cause. There's no more like room for debate. Like people aren't debating things anymore. Once you just don't go along with the herd mentality of this is right and that is wrong, and if you don't agree, then you're racist or whatever the term is, right, that people are using. And then you become dismissed. There is no open forum for different perspectives. There is no room for that. So we're just kind of developing this angry mob mentality where everybody's really quick to just cast you out of society and say, well, you're wrong, so we're going to silence you. Sounds kind of like COVID. Sounds kind of like when people decided not to follow along with the mandates and then they were separated from relationships and they lost their jobs and they weren't able to participate in society. To some extent, I wonder if this has been set up and been groomed all along to steadily build on the pressure and the sense of division and the conflict, knowing that if that's going on and people are arguing and tearing each other apart, elites can get away with murder. The banks can get away with murder. Politicians can get away with murder. Guys, do not play into this right now. Don't get involved in some of this. What's the most important thing right now is try to find common goals that everybody can agree on, which is we want health, we want happiness, we want freedom, right? We want freedom of speech. Even if we don't agree, I will continue to protect that for everybody, even if I don't agree. And listen, freedom of speech comes with a lot of pitfalls. It can come with some really nasty, YouTube comments, but that's part of having that freedom, is being able to say what you need to say, right? Then we've got Jupiter conjunct the North Node in Taurus. Once again, expanding our wealth, like I said, values, resources, learning more about financial freedom and financial goals, natural living. And then the Jupiter square Mars. Intense fixed energy is powerful. And, more or less, Jupiter is the planet that is the T-square. But if you look at it all together, it's a grand fixed cross. So from the time that Jupiter enters into Taurus until Mars hits about 4, maybe 5 degrees, which will be several days, let's see. That energy is going to be in the mix. May 24th is another day to watch. My guess is until about June 1st. So like I said, the last 10 days of the month, that's going to be the most intense. But until Mars gets out of that square, that's when things are going to kind of calm down. Now, this new moon is conjunct 2 fixed stars. And guess what? They're both gnarly. So it's conjunct Algol, and it's also conjunct the fixed star. It's Alclone. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Sorry. Let me know. Am I pronouncing it correctly? But these are the 2 fixed stars. They have about a 2-degree orb. So Algol is closer to about 26 degrees, and Alclone is 0 degrees of Gemini. So it's within orbits, conjunct both of them, okay? So I'm going to talk to you about this a little bit, but I also want to remind you guys, we had an eclipse that was back in 2021, right here. That was conjunct similar degrees. This was a lunar eclipse in Taurus. So think about what was going on in your life the week of November 19th, 2021, okay? Lunar eclipse in Taurus, that was the very first eclipse that was being ushered into the series of eclipses in Scorpio and Taurus. Obviously, the moon and the North Node were conjunct, which was very nice. We also saw that at the time Venus was coming into a sextile with Neptune. It was in a sextile to Mars. It was a trine to Uranus, close to a trine to the moon. So, the aspects were actually pretty positive, that particular eclipse. But this is going to be at around a similar degree. So it's a little less than 2 degrees in conjunction. So is it reactivating that? Not necessarily, because it's a new moon, but you may see some themes revolving around what big events were taking place for you in your life, or financially, kind of getting a restart. Okay, so there's kind of like pushing restart with that particular degree. Ironic that, you know, this was in the fall of 2021, is really when we started to see like a decline in the markets too. So Taurus and Scorpio are financial signs. It's not unusual to see that happen when there's those eclipses, but still, I just wanted to mention that and bring it up for you guys. Let's go to the next new moon. There we go. So let's talk about these fixed stars really quick. So Algol, right, which has strong associations with like Medusa. It's also known as the, you know, connected to the bull, the blinking eye of the bull. And has a strong association with violence, okay, among several different types of astrology in a variety of different cultures. I guess in medieval astrology, it was important not to begin battles while the star was weak. Let's see, what else do I have here? 17th century English astrologer William Lilly regarded the planet to be afflicted within 5 degrees of the conjunction. Most astrologers agree that it can deal with unfortunate or violent events. It's considered a dangerous star in the heavens. And Algol is one of the 15 major fixed stars. The images of a human head cut off at the neck. It gives success to petitions, makes the wearer bold, preserves the body, protects against witchcraft, and turns evil spells against those who work upon them. It's connected to black diamonds and mugwort, so maybe burning some mugwort would be good during this new moon. Algol is also, like I said, connected to Medusa. So Al-Ghul, meaning demon or evil spirit, has the same root term connected to alcohol. So can there be more entity attachments? Maybe. I'm working on a video for you guys right now about 8 degrees of Taurus, where we're going to see Mercury come back to. We're going to see Jupiter hit that. So definitely, I do feel like there's going to be more black magic going on this year. I feel like there's going to be more people who are susceptible to it with the squares from Pluto. So that's a fun video that I'm working on. But I would just say this: anything that lowers your vibration, right? So if it's drugs, if it's alcohol, if it's anger, if it's frustration, if it's violence, right? That's all going to lower your vibration, and it's making you more susceptible to entity attachments or more negativity if you believe in these types of things. Let's see, what else do I have here? So it's also known as like losing one's head. So there can also be connections to people who are having neurological issues, mental health issues. Unfortunately, this is a star that we see that has associations with suicide and threats for taking one's life. Trigger warning, just letting you guys know. And it's not unusual to see themes revolving around beheading or cutting something off at the head, which can not necessarily be literal. It can be figurative in a sense of heads of companies, CEOs, heads of banks getting cut and people kind of getting like taken off the chopping block. So that's one way of looking at it. And then when we look at the conjunction involving the sun, it's said that oftentimes it's observed that when the sun is in conjunction or the moon, it has 2 sides. We can see like very spiritual rays, which can bring about opportunities to be protected from these energies, or it can bring injuries and severe accidents. Inclination towards brutality and violence. Okay, that's enough of that stuff. So you guys have heard me talk about Algol before. Those of you guys who work with Algol, if you work with fixed stars, like I know some people who work with that and they use that energy to protect and deflect. So if that's something that you do, that's fine. Just be mindful that it's a really heavy energy. So I kind of go both ways. Like with the trine to Pluto, I feel like you want to use this energy to be deflecting against lower vibrations and things that are negative out in the world, right? And then the other star that we see that's connected at 0 degrees of Gemini is, I think it's Alclone. It's a fixed star that causes blindness, fevers, smallpox, and accidents to the face. Both of these stars are connected to the Pleiades, which are said to, be very turbulent and can cause, all kinds of issues revolving around blindness, disgrace, and violent death. It does have other connections, though. That's just something that's really associated with these particular fixed stars. And this particular fixed star has the energy of Moon and Mars. So there can be connections to danger and things that are going to be like more treacherous. In particular, just thinking about the sun and the moon coming into conjunction here, and the fact that it has talked about like violence and action and things that can be more brutal, that's getting picked up anyway from the energy of Jupiter in opposition to Pluto. And that's where we do see warlike energy, conflict, abuse, attacks. And then we also see Mars square Jupiter can be that as well, that it can be sudden, unexpected, violent attacks. Things revolving around the face and the eyes. We also see Mars in Cancer. I've thought for some time that there is like the potential of finding out after this retrograde and when these conjunctions are happening that there has been like food that's been contaminated and people having like stomach issues or viruses or people getting sick. That is very possible with Mars in a trine to Neptune. So really knowing the source of where your food is coming from or finding out that there are major recalls on food can definitely be a theme, especially anything relating to cows or dairy or steaks, things like that. Any kind of meat. And I was also looking at, and I'll talk about this more in my Mars and Leo video, but Mars and Leo, I believe at the 1st degree, if I remember correctly, does have a connection to viruses. I can't remember if it's the 1st or the 2nd. Hold on, let me look. So the 2nd degree of Leo was, which you're going to see more of here, around May 24th. Particularly, this has connections sometimes to contagious diseases. I'll read it to you. I'll talk about it in the next video. But Leo 2, an epidemic of mumps. The keyword is infection. Symbol speaks to one or more aspects of the self getting completely out of control and a tendency of man to want to escape or avoid reality. And unpleasant effects when there is no understanding of what needs to be done or what is required to bring about healing or restore health or organic integrity. The image of an epidemic of mumps suggests a situation that affects not only an individual but a group functioning. The emphasis on the reverse symbol is a temporary inability to continue some present wish for activity and the need to understand why momentum has been restricted in one direction and has opened up the opportunity for expansion in the other, square to Jupiter. Here is a call to realize that the reason for everything in life that happens. The task at hand is to comprehend the higher purpose of the interest being served by the limitation. The accent is on disease and momentum. It could get out of control, become unstoppable within a particular group. Healing may be needed. Your greatest advantage lies in understanding the greater purpose being served by difficult drama than being played out. Be sensitive to the opportunities being revealed. Contagion, infection, transmission, expansion, momentum, outbreak, increase, upsurge, outburst, disorder, disease, and sickness. I'm watching kids, younger children, Mars and Leo. I'm also thinking about kids that are going to be like in like elementary school. I'm thinking about stuff that might be in transit systems, subways, Ubers, buses, trains, that kind of stuff, that may get picked up from this. There's more, once again, there's more than one aspect. So that's why I'm bringing it up. I know it's going to be more next week, but I'm letting you guys know now that some of this does seem to come from the activation of that degree, which does have connections to smallpox, the opposition to Pluto, which can be people saying, hey, we have to shut something down. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. It's not safe to go and see sporting events, to go to casinos. Remember, Mars is going to be cutting back. So there can be younger people that are pushing back saying, no, we want to go. We want to be there. Why can't we go? Why can't we participate? So we're going to see something else that's going to be a crisis, and it definitely is health related, which can bring viruses or issues or problems with rashes in the face that can have economic effects, good or bad. And also, once again, what are we learning from when these things happen, right? What are we learning? Where has the pandemic showed some people where faith can't completely, totally, in a sense of society, be put in, the hands of the government? Where we must really work hard to take care of our home and our family and our health, where we have to provide for ourselves and better prepare and know that moving forward, these things may continue to keep happening. I don't say this to be like doom and gloom. I'm just letting you guys know because this keeps coming up for me every time I look at this chart and I'm like, something else is going to happen. So if you hear anything revolving around these infectious kind of things that crop up, it's very much connected to the astrology. The positive of this, right, is that we do have the opportunity with this new moon to really focus on getting grounded, getting solid, being like, okay, what do I possess? Taking stock in what we have and figuring out how we can bring in more. But also it's about reworking and rethinking the way that we look at wealth. Is more better, right? Sometimes less is more. Sometimes natural is better. Sometimes organic is going to be the way to go. Freedom may be through working and collaborating and trading and connecting with other groups within society. It might be actually simplifying. So watch for that. I think it's going to be so significant in transforming our resources. I'm feeling really positive and optimistic about this new moon that even if we do see over the next 6 months some of these things manifest, right? It is giving us the opportunity to go, okay, I have to create my own wealth. I have to start kind of building something for myself. I have to become more self-sufficient. So I'm not as reliant on some of these government figures. Please be careful, exercise caution with alcohol, okay? Substances. This is a time to be really mindful that the energies in play right now are going to definitely take a hit towards your physical body and your physical ability to ground and feel like you can be solid and make practical decisions. Because people, when they're in a situation where there's pressure and they have to think on their feet, or they feel threatened, or their resources feel threatened, they're going to suddenly, make some crazy decisions with their resources out of fear. And you want to watch for that and just take your time when kind of assessing what's going on out in the world. Careful with any substances as well. Watch for losing your head, blowing up, freaking out, panicking over something until you have all of the facts, getting super explosive with other people. Do your best if you can to just try to be level-headed and take your time. Mental health issues are a big thing. So like I said, if anything, I think the sextiles to Neptune and the trines to Pluto are going to prompt where, that the effects on the general public over the last few years in regards to mental health is the epidemic. That is the problem. How it's affected everybody from depression to isolation to concern over finances and resources to not having enough food, and the effects that it has had on everybody. And everybody's kind of like zombified with some of these sextiles with Pluto to Neptune. And I guess when I think of like some of the COVID hysteria, I think a lot of people bought into we're in this together, and we need help, please help us, feeling helpless. And there was some sense of like camaraderie within that. And I hope that some of the transits that are happening are making people realize that that's actually putting you in a position of not getting out of that limited type of relationship with fear, becoming reliant on the next thing and when it's safe to go or to move around or to do this or to do that. It's about learning how to get back in the body and being grounded before you're making any major decisions. We're going to see issues with greed, so it's going to come up, major truths, like I said, regarding the banking system and investments and major financial networks being revealed. This is going to be a very intense purge-like energy because we're seeing the Mars, Pluto, Jupiter stuff. And with the sun and the moon trine Pluto, it's going to be a natural purge, and it's going to be as a result of information and physical information coming to light, and severing or cutting off something to make room for the new. So this is going to be a theme that we're going to be experiencing in the immediate next 2 weeks, but you're going to see this play out over the next better part of the next 6 months. Watch for fluctuations and issues with mortgages. Themes involving neurological issues or, like I said, new viruses that are going to possibly be coming out. Issues with cattle, especially revolving around food that's been contaminated, and numbers of death and or fertility rates or death rates that we're going to be hearing more about. And the CEOs of major companies potentially being kind of cut. All right, so let's just get to the 12 signs. So if you stayed all the way through to the end, you're the real VP. You're the real MVP. There we go. Let me show you guys the rising signs and talk about where this is going to be playing out for each and every one of you. This is going to be for whole sign Western astrology, okay? It's very general, but if you listen to your rising sign, it's going to tell you exactly what house your new moon is going to be taking place in the sign of Taurus. Keep in mind, it is the last degree and a half. So it's right before we see the sun and the moon go into Gemini in the next sign. So it is cusping on that. It will physically be by whole sign in Taurus, which means there's some new intention you're setting there, but it's in preparation before you go into Gemini. I'm going to talk to you guys about the aspects of Pluto and also Venus and why it's important. If you're a Placidus user like me and you want to listen to your Placidus, you need to see where 28 degrees of Taurus is in your Placidus chart, which house it's in. You might need to listen to 2 signs. And yeah, let's take a look. You can listen to your rising, your sun, and your moon sign. In this situation, because we also have an exalted moon and Jupiter is also in the sign, it might be a good idea to listen to your moon sign. Listen to your moon sign, okay? All right, so this is gonna be for Aries and Aries rising. You're gonna have a new moon taking place in Taurus. It's gonna be in your natal second house of money and resources. Everything in regards to your self-esteem, your possessions, your financial health, your spending abilities. You've had a Mercury retrograde here. You've been working out your budget. You have Jupiter that's just arriving. So there's good news in regards to money and resources and things that are coming in. Likely it's as a result of things you've been manifesting. Venus, the ruler, is in your 4th house of home and family. So likely a lot of the intentions you're setting are revolving around what you own, what you possess, what your family has, where you're living, what your house feels like, and resources that are coming from the home and the family. We also have a trine that's setting up to Pluto that's in your 11th house. So you're really getting in touch with goals. Maybe you're going through lots of changes in regards to what your goals are when it comes to your financial future. Maybe you're having to kind of cut back on some social connections, maybe changing something about your political beliefs. That's really impacting the way that you look at your spending abilities, your values, and you're really looking at what's going on out in the world and how that's really affecting your resources, especially because the 11th house represents the money that you make from work. So something might be changing there, but through that change, it looks like it's bringing in more spending abilities, and you're going to be really optimistic about some of the stuff that's coming through. The card that I got for you is the High Priestess. Really aligning with those visions. I love this for you because I think it's about listening to your intuition. So you probably resonate with what I said about how Saturn is the pot and how it sextiles to Jupiter in the North Node, and you're creating this vision for how you're going to grow your resources. And so there's lots of manifesting, meditating, taking time to think and reflect and kind of vision board or manifest some of the things that you're going to be growing or creating. And it can be very creative. It can also be financial. It can also be about food and resources, but it looks like you're tapping into your vision and you're seeing it come into reality. So you're like, it's so close. I can taste it. I can feel it. Stay with that because likely you're able to kind of see all of the pieces come together. Good luck, Aries. For Taurus and Taurus rising, what's going on, guys? This is your moon, new you. You got a new moon, taking place in your 1st house, which is all about the self and the body. Okay, so new intentions revolving around what you look like, what you wear, how you feel in your skin. Jupiter is there, so you're feeling more excited about the future. You're embracing these new changes in regards to where you're living, what your body looks like, where you're traveling, what you believe in. And this is a wonderful time to set intentions revolving around what it is you're hoping to see grow within yourself. So at the time of the new moon, Venus, which is also your chart ruler, is in a sextile to all of this energy, and Venus is in the 3rd house. So it looks like you're speaking things into reality. It looks like the changes that you're going to be making physically or in terms of your actions or your philosophy, because Jupiter is there, is going to come from what you're writing, where you're traveling. It's going to come from some kind of support from a neighbor, a cousin, a sibling. It may revolve around what you're learning or what you're reading, right? Because Venus is in the 3rd house. It can be about books and podcasts. Venus also has connections to your 6th. So are you going to be writing more, teaching more, learning more? Are you learning about health? Are you learning about wellness? Are you becoming somebody who is seen as a professional in these fields and sharing some of this information? At the time of the moon, we're also going to see it trine Pluto. So thank Goddess, you have a nice aspect between your 1st house and Pluto. Finally, you're seeing Pluto is not quite the bad guy. Yes, it may be a huge change going on for you professionally. It looks like it might be scary, or you're kind of going through an ending of one phase and it's giving you the opportunity to birth a new phase for your reputation and for your career. I think it's wonderful. I think whatever new things you're setting out to do is going to prove to be very lucrative and very abundant, especially going into next year. And I could see for some of you guys with this new moon that it's all about the willingness to change and transform and be okay with how your career or your reputation is evolving. It is not easy, Taurus, okay? Hear me on this, because you're a part of the fixed crew. So you're going to have these squares happening in your 4 cardinal houses, which means there is something changing at home in the next month. There is some move or setback or change with home or family, which is impacting relationships. It's impacting your job, and everything is going to feel very tense. But you're optimistic about moving through some of these things, and you're open to really tapping into your own personal power and what you can change. The Devil card. So this talks about where you feel stuck, where you feel held back. This talks about habits and patterns. This can also talk about things that are kind of hanging over you or making you feel limited. I think this is both a combination of Pluto in your 10th, but also Saturn in your 11th, where you're having to get serious about your goals, realizing that certain attachments are not healthy, certain people, certain things have to be cut off. I think this is also about materialism and what it is that you want, right? What it is that you wish to possess. As the sun and the moon go into your 2nd house and trine Pluto, it's going to give you an opportunity to bring in more resources, but at what cost? Don't lose sight of the fact that Saturn's in your 11th and you need connection to other people. You need to network. You need friends. You need other people to help you build what it is you're building. Time to let go of things that are limiting. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You're going to have a new moon in Taurus in your natal 12th house. So this is more secluded. This is more hidden, private, spiritual. A new moon in the 12th house can be about retreating. It can be about getting quiet and kind of preparing as you're getting ready to come into your birthday season. There are a ton of planets in your 12th house. You've had a Mercury retrograde there. Looks like you've been thinking a lot about how to heal, what to let go of, where to get away from it all, what you need to just kind of like release before you're getting ready to start this new phase. A new moon that is ruled by Venus, and you have Venus in the 2nd house in Cancer. Venus is in a harmonious aspect to these placements. I do feel like you can kind of be stressing out about money. You can be stressing out about physical security and resources. There is an indication that it's mind over matter, right? It's all about, once again, the reality that you're creating. I think that this can be a lot of like receiving help from the ethers and from your spirit team. This can be angel investors and people who show up out of the blue who are very generous and willing to kind of give to you. This can be the ideas that you're creating and developing that you're getting ready to kind of promote or pitch to be able to bring in more resources. So I could see that being a theme here as well. And also we've got the squares, the trines that are taking place between the new moon and Pluto. You're going to love this energy when the sun and the moon cross into your sign and it trines, because maybe it's like you go through some kind of change as a result of travel or talking to like a mentor or a guru or somebody who kind of helps you have a breakthrough. I could also see this as embracing new versions of yourself and realizing that you have the ability to move around, change your mind, have some kind of freedom. You're feeling empowered. You and Libra are really strongly positively aspected from the sun and moon moving into Gemini this week. So it's important to work with that energy. It's a sister sign, so it's going to trine, and it's helping you really break through what feels like has been kind of like hiding in the shadows here recently. And it might be a total breakthrough in regards to your faith as well. Let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get is the Justice card. I have a lot of majors. So we've got the Justice card. So I think this is talking about getting rebalanced, finding your equilibrium, right? Especially in terms of like relationships, partners. This can be karma. I mean, you do have a lot of planets in the 12th house, which are making aspects to Pluto. So it can be about some kind of karma playing out, revolving around like your culture, your religion, your belief system, maybe where you're going to school, your education, your philosophies. Universal law, karma, cause and effect, truth being revealed, accountability, and consequences. So I think this is about truths being revealed and having epiphanies and realizations about the world and your belief system, and like having opportunities for breakthrough. I see also like Venus being connected to justice, and the fact that Venus is in the second house is really talking about what you are owed. And whether or not, you know, the karma gods are going to be good to you and kind of hook you up and give you some opportunities or give you some cosmic or financial support if it is needed to kind of help you move through some of these things so you feel more safe and secure as you're coming into your birthday season. Good luck. For Cancer and Cancer rising, we've got a new moon taking place in the sign of Taurus in your natal 11th house. So the 11th house is goals, friends, networking, anything revolving around parties, socializing, all that fun stuff. So you have this new moon here. So if you're wanting to join a group or a network, if you're wanting to join an association, get out there, go out and make new friends. This is the time to do it. And Taurus is in harmonious aspect to some of the placements in your chart. So we've got Venus in your sign, Mars in your sign, and honestly, all of this energy in your group of friends is trining your ascendant. So to me, it looks like there's people around you that may be new. There may be people you're reconnecting to. There may be a sense of just really focusing on who your people are, who your groups are, to help kind of guide you and give you support, love, and appreciation moving into some of your future endeavors. So the sextiles are really wonderful. Venus being in your sign tells me that it's going to be about maybe you taking some action and connecting with people, you starting a group, starting a club, starting a Facebook group, or just reconnecting with friends in general, because you're really feeling like you're in need of some emotional or friendship support. We've got, during the time of this new moon, a trine to Pluto, so it is talking about changes that are happening and transforming in regards to intimacy, joint resources, and also healing. I think Pluto going into the 8th house can also be about healing. Now, as the sun and the moon approach your 12th house, it's going to trine Pluto. So there can be like certain definitive endings in some relationships, friendships in particular kind of come to mind because Pluto is in Aquarius. And so as planets leave the 12th house, and it trines Pluto, there can be a sense of having like a breakdown or a breakthrough in some of these relationships. For the most part, it's positive. So I feel like if you've had like some miscommunications with friends or some falling outs with people, you have the ability to kind of connect with them and tell them where you've been, what you've been going through. But then you are going to start a period where you're going to have the sun and also the moon moving through your 12th house. And then you will be preparing for the next 3.5 weeks before we come into Cancer season. Personally, I feel like rest, recuperation is a big theme here at the end of the week as the sun ingresses into the 12th house. I get the impression that It is important to go and do your connecting, your socializing, joining the groups, and all of that stuff. So that way, as you go through the next month or so, when you have some heavier energies, you have support. Be very careful with borrowing, lending, sharing with friends, because there is some stress that comes up here with some of these angles that you're going to be seeing between Mars and Pluto. It can be about what friends you hold on to and what friends you let go of. The card that I get for you is the Star card. So many majors. Healing. I think it's the ability to heal after what's been like a rocky period. So if you feel like you've been kind of down and out and, you know, some of your goals haven't come into fruition, now's the time to be like, I'm going to get together with my friends and we're going to, you know, do like a group manifesting party, or, you know, I have the ability to heal an issue with my friends, or I am healing an issue revolving around myself, right? Because the moon rules your chart. So for the sun and moon to come together, there is this need to work on building the self up and feeling solid and secure. But, you know, the North Node's still in your 11th house. Jupiter's going into your 11th house. You need like-minded friends and people who are going to support you and celebrate everything that you are. So there can be lots of change and turnover in your friendship circles, but likely it's happening because you need more quality people in your life. Good luck. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You're going to be having a new moon in Taurus, which will be taking place in your natal 10th house of career, my Leos. Oh boy. So for starters, a new moon in the 10th house is giving you the opportunity to set intentions revolving around your career. You want a new job, you want to go to a job interview, you want to ask for a raise, you want to launch a business. All of these things kind of happen on the heels of a new moon in Taurus. Now, keep in mind, you may be working on these things for the better part of the next 6 months. So we want to initiate after the new moon. You've got a lot of interesting energies in the sky. So for starters, the new moon is ruled by Venus. Venus is in the 12th house. So it tells me you're working hard behind the scenes, building something out, creating something, creating art, devoting a lot of time and energy to what you're working on in the shadows. It can mean that you're working with art, film, TV, design. It can mean that you're working with something spiritual, something involving like films or sets or anything that can be private. There are sextiles between all of this Cancer and Taurus work. So even though it's not ready yet, you're like, I'm working through it. You know, I'm working through it and nobody sees it quite yet, what I'm creating. I love that Jupiter's now in your 10th house. You're going to start seeing the expansion with your career. The Mercury retrograde is over. So, you know, the moving around and feeling kind of disbobulated maybe is finally kind of shifting. And this is a very, very busy time for you because there's so many planets in your 10th house, which is all about work, career, reputation. Naturally, it squares your ascendant. So you feel like you have to really show up and be on right now and be on out in the world. And Mars is getting ready to come into your sign and it's going to square this. So you can be very active, but you can also be very combative, especially with parents, superiors, bosses, things like that. It'll oppose Pluto and square the South Node. So you're changing, relationships are changing, home is changing, career is changing. And the truth is that now is the time to bring your area of focus to career. And you're going to be so focused on career, reputation, responsibility, what you're building out in the world, that you're going to feel a little tense when it comes to relationships and also home. Just take it easy. Listen to what I was talking about in this video where I say, hey, it's going to be intense for about 10 days and it's going to calm down a little bit. Take your time, slow down, be mindful of your interaction with other people because there can be some conflicts, especially with business partners, clients, or possibly even with bosses. But for the most part, I actually see like if you have a little bit of like quiet, private time, you can diffuse a lot of this energy and not feel like you're going to be as heated or reactionary and be given the space that you need to kind of go and work on the things that you want to be working on. So let's take a look and see. The trine to Pluto also makes me feel like you have a lot of support. Coming from a friend, coming from a business partner, coming from a spouse, somebody that's like your cheerleader. They're like, you can do it, you've got it, it's fine, keep moving through this. So whether it's a counselor, a therapist, your astrologer, or a romantic partner, you need somebody who's saying you can go through some of these changes, it's gonna be okay, like keep fighting. The card that I got for you is the Four of Cups. which can be about disappointment, contemplation, reevaluation, feeling unfulfilled, discontent, or indifferent. Personally, I think the moodiness of Mars moving into your sign opposing Pluto can give off a vibe of being like, not now, you know, I'm chasing what I want. Oh, I didn't get what I want. And then there can be some pouting. And also, like, be cautious with this card of missing opportunities because you're stuck in a funk or you're not really open to seeing what else is being presented to you. The world is your oyster right now with all these planets in your 10th house, and it's like full steam ahead with what's capable in your career. And if one thing's not opening or one thing's not panning out, it's because something else is getting ready to emerge. Okay? Good luck. For Virgo and Virgo rising, we've got a new moon taking place in the sign of Taurus. It's going to be happening in your natal 9th house. Let me take this back because it's going to drive me crazy. There we go. There we go. You got a natal 9th house new moon. And it's in a sister sign. So Taurus is a sister sign. So if you are a Virgo sun, moon, or rising, especially around 27, 28, 29 degrees, it's going to be beneficial for you because you'll experience a trine. Okay, so new moon here in the 9th is going to give you the opportunity to set new intentions revolving around your beliefs, travel, or education. If you want to go back to school, if you want to publish something, if you need to start a lawsuit, if you are wanting to plan a trip or go somewhere, if you're wanting to go back to school, if you want to connect to a teacher or a mentor or a guru, this is the new moon that we do this with. I like the fact that it's going to trine something that you have in Virgo. I also like the fact that it's trining Pluto because I feel like it's about you learning that you have to make the scheduling changes. You have to make the health changes. You have to make the changes revolving around the office. A lot of you guys are going back to school. A lot of you guys are doing some kind of distant learning or you're trying to kind of work remotely. And that's really what the 9th house wants. Jupiter is so happy in the 9th house. Will it cost to go back to school, take a program, or get certification? Yeah, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run because in the next year or two, you're going to see lots of growth within your career. And the fact that you did go and learn something new is going to put you in a much more powerful position next year with Jupiter in your 10th house trine Pluto. At the time of this new moon, we have the ruler Venus in the 11th house. So I wonder, are you guys traveling and visiting a friend? Are you going to somebody's wedding or celebration? Because Jupiter can be about rituals or ceremonies, and Venus is in the 11th. So is a friend saying, I bought a house, I'm getting married, you know, we're having a kid. And are you traveling with a partner or with a friend? That can be happening. Jupiter also rules your 7th house. So the fact that you've got Jupiter now in the 9th and the sextiles to Saturn, love can be found at a distance. Commitment can be possible with somebody who's further away. And maybe this gives you the opportunity with this new moon to kind of travel and meet somebody's friends or vice versa. But like I said, the trine to Pluto, which is also picking up energy to your ascendant, you're going to see is an opportunity to radically change your daily routine, your habits, your work, your schedule, making it possible for you to have more freedom, to travel more, learn more, and kind of get out and about and do something and have a good time. Let's take a look and see what the cards say for you. The card that we get is the Queen of Wands. So there can be some connection to a Leo, Aries, or a Sagittarius woman, or this can be you if you're a woman watching this. Really tapping into your confidence, your independence, being very social, creative, self-assured, passionate, vivacious, charismatic, and optimistic. So action, right? What you love, what you're creating. I think that that's so interesting, especially since we're about to have Mars go into a fire sign. It's going to be in your 12th house. I could see some of you guys wanting to travel to a foreign place, some of you guys wanting to go and, you know, have a romantic kind of getaway with someone, or maybe there's a long distance like love affair happening. But definitely talking about feeling more active and in love with life. And kind of like seizing the moment. So as these planets, you know, come into your 9th house, then we have this new moon. I think it's maybe choosing for the next 6 months, having more adventure. Good luck. For Libra and Libra rising, you're going to be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Taurus in your natal 8th house. This is a big one. So this is all about, obviously, joint relationships, transformation, intimacy, but it can also be about transition, okay? So 8th house is like karmic entanglement. So the money that you share with other people, it can be about money that you get from other people, like spousal support, child support, inheritances, and also the growth of joint partnerships. So for you to have a new moon here, the North Node here, Jupiter here, it's very clear, Libra, that there is about to be a radical shift in your resources, and likely there's going to be some kind of money flowing in your direction that's either from a spouse or a partner making more, or it's going to be possibly from like an uncle, an aunt, or a cousin, or some kind of money tied to an online business, a blog, something where you share, maybe you have like videos. So you're going to see some kind of opportunity for like increased payout here. Some of you guys might be looking into loans and getting a loan for a vehicle. That could definitely happen. If you've waited until after the Mercury retrograde, good on you. But now that you have a new moon, you're setting intentions revolving around what can other people bring to me? What can I grow with other people? How can I evolve in my partnerships or in intimacy, or anything revolving around what is kind of secret and taboo? At the time of this new moon, Venus is the ruler, which is also your ruler, and it's sitting in the 10th house of your career and your reputation. So really, there's a lot of growth in regards to your professional life. There is a lot of getting recognition, loving what you're doing, getting along well with other people. Perhaps all of the sextiles to the 10th house is realizing that something needs to change about what you're receiving. So if you're in a client-based business, or if you have control over your fees, you might say, hey, I'm charging more money, I'm paying more in taxes, my fees need to go up. It may also mean that you're aware that you're bringing in a clientele that's willing to pay more, or there's going to be an influx of people reading what you have to say or hearing what you have to say, and somehow that can be bringing you more money. But Venus in the 10th is great for career. Now, the challenge here is that you have this right on the cusp of your 9th house. So there's something that needs to kind of be reworked in regards to what other people give you and that connection that you have before it breaks into your 9th house, which is going to be more about expansion and learning and sharing and traveling, maybe even publishing. And that energy is going to trine your ascendant. So right after this new moon, the sun and the moon will move into a trine with your ascendant, and it will also trine Pluto. So the fact that it's trining Pluto is saying, what do you love? What do you want to create, right? How can you make big changes with your love life, with your children, with your self-expression, and allow yourself to bring in more intimacy, more closeness, more vulnerability, more money. And it's going to be trining your ascendant. So the truth is, Libra, especially the early degrees, like the first 3 degrees of Libra, this is very positive for you. It looks like you're choosing to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more open in the ways that you can be making money within your career. And it definitely looks like there is something coming your way. Now, keep in mind, this can take 6 months to manifest. You may see this manifest more when like the sun and Mars and Venus in the fall are moving through Scorpio. So it can take until the fall for you to receive. The card that I get is the 6 of Swords. So it's about being in limbo, being in transition. It can be about moving. It can be about movement, moving from one phase to the next. But this can also be talking about leaving something behind, moving to calmer waters, accepting lessons, transitions. It can be about people transitioning. I don't like saying that, being a Libra rising, but you got a couple markers here, right? Eclipse is still in the 8th house in the fall, Jupiter in the 8th house. You've got conjunctions to Uranus in the 8th house. That can play out, summertime as well, when we see like a Mercury retrograde in your 12th. So keep in mind that it's about the process of, okay, we keep it moving, right? That relationship, that situation, that person in your life, that job had its moment, and now we're kind of moving on. So death comes with the 8th house and how we embrace change. And I think this is giving you an opportunity to say, I can't really be afraid to make a change in some of these things if it means that I'm going to be receiving more as a result of letting something go. Good luck, Libra. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, we've got a new moon taking place in the sign of Taurus. It's in your natal 7th house. And as I said to Leo, and I will also remind Aquarius, this is intense and there is lots of change going on, especially if you were the first like 5 or so degrees of Scorpio, sun, moon, or rising. You are going to be heavily under the influence of the Jupiter, Pluto, Mars squares. So this is going to be a very action-oriented time. A new moon always brings the attention to fresh starts, and this new moon is in your 7th house of relationships. So romantic relationships, if you're married, it's your spouse, it can be your marketplace, it can be clients, it can be your relationship with counselors, therapists. So the new moon is basically saying it's time to start fresh with the people that you partner with. At the time of this new moon, obviously we have Venus, which is the ruler, in the natal 9th house. And so the 9th house does deal with higher education, philosophy, learning, traveling, education, philosophy. So to me, it looks like there's an opportunity over the next 2 weeks, but more specifically up through the next 6 months, to really grow in your relationships with another person. And it can be that you're growing with them because you're talking about your philosophy and your beliefs more. It can mean that you're growing together because you're traveling together. For Scorpio risings, it's a wonderful period over the next few weeks to like consider going on a trip, getting away, reconnecting to a partner if you are partnered. And it's a way to just really reconnect. If you are single, this can be like setting intentions revolving around, I want to meet somebody. How do I meet somebody? Am I willing to look in other cities? Am I willing to kind of expand my search optimization? Do I go and talk to somebody about what I'm looking for in relationships because of that Venus placement? Now, lots of aspects also to Saturn in your 5th, so you have to really believe that you're capable of finding this person, believe that you're capable of love. You have to believe in anything right now, regardless of what sign you are, before it manifests. That's how Saturn in Pisces works. At the time of this particular new moon, we're also going to see that it's going to be in a trine to Pluto, which is really positive, Scorpio. I know you've been waiting for a positive aspect. Here's a positive aspect. Pluto is your chart ruler. Pluto's in the 4th house, which means something revolving around your home life, your emotions, endings and beginnings at home. This new moon is kind of kicking off something where you have the ability to really kind of hit the restart button with your relationships to others, which can help you move through some kind of personal crisis, or it can actually transform your emotions. It can transform your home or your family. So you need this other person to help you do it. It can mean that you need to tell, a partner, hey, I need your support in overcoming some of these heavy emotions. It might mean that you contact a therapist and say, hey, I'm, depressed, or I'm feeling stuck. I need to work through something. It might mean that you actually go and get an astrology reading to better understand what karmic patterns you're working through within your home and your family. 7th house is your astrologer. So some of you guys will be meeting with an astrologer for the very first time, or reconnecting with one. The downside is that you're getting hit also with your other ruling planet, Mars. That's going into Leo, having you focus all on your career and showing up in the world and what you're doing work-wise and taking lots of action. That may positively manifest as new clients and new opportunities for you or a romantic partner, especially if you work together. The downside is that Mars is going to oppose Pluto and it's going to square Jupiter. So it says that you either need the wisdom of a spouse or a partner, you need somebody really positive and optimistic about these changes to come through, or somebody to kind of guide you just to keep the ego in check as you move through some of this stuff. Now, you've got bigger changes that are going to happen over the summer. You're going to have Venus retrograde in your 10th house. So there will be more changes revolving around what you're doing creatively and professionally as well. So this is just the beginning of that. So just bear in mind, there's going to be lots of growth that's positive in relationships, lots of work, but definitely a lot of needing to let go of older, outdated versions of yourself, and the willingness to deal with some deep-seated emotions or family issues. The card that I get for you is the moon, and this is a very lunar transit. It is a new moon. So likely really pay attention, Scorpio, what's happening between now and the next full moon. Okay, so the next full moon that we're gonna have So that's going to be on June 3rd, 2023. That'll be in Sag, okay? So pay attention to the full moon. That's going to be completing something. You know, you got the new moon in a financial sign and it's with partners, and you have a full moon in the second house. Looks like you're talking to a lot of, talking to your partners a lot about money, resources, and what you want to obtain. But the moon card talks about what's going on subconsciously, what we aren't aware of, what we become aware of, likely sometimes what blindsides us or kind of comes up deep in our subconscious, illusions, hidden, subconscious, unseen, unknown, fears, secrets, complex confusion. And there's going to be lots of complex issues revolving around home and career dynamics, because you got a Mars-Pluto opposition. So you need a partner, or you need a mediator, or you need somebody to help you through some of these changes. Watch what happens through this next lunar cycle, and don't be surprised that there are some things that are unearthed with Pluto in your 4th house that you did not see coming. Good luck. Okay, so we've got Sag and Sag rising. This will be a new moon in Taurus for you, Sag. It's in your natal 6th house, which deals all with health, your routine, being of service, your office space, your habits, your pets. Okay, so we're setting new intentions revolving around these things. Naturally, you know, Taurus energy, it does not vibe as well with you. It creates an inconjunct. I bring this up because at the time of the new moon, Jupiter, your chart ruler, is immediately coming into an inconjunct with your ascendant, which can be an indication that there's something going on with your body. There could be something going on with your thyroid, Taurus, your throat. There could be something going on with your weight or your diet, something going on with your liver, something with your hips, okay, and thighs, because that's Jupiter. Something where you're overworking, right? Overworking, overeating, or you're becoming aware of some kind of a habit, and it's like in friction with your body. Now, new moons are positive. They're here to help us move through something. So if you're like, hey, I need a new doctor, I need a new dietitian, I need to go and start a new gym membership, I need to find a new vet, or I need to hire help, I'm working too much, or I'm expanding, or my career is changing, you know, help is on the way. Wherever Jupiter is, it's always going to look out for you. So starting new habits, healthier habits, new schedules, and new jobs are really favorable after this new moon. This is going to be ruled by Venus, and Venus at the time is going to be in your 8th house. So it tells me that you're getting organized with your home, your resources, what you're spending. It's very possible also that there is a sense of you caring or tending to something, transforming something within the home, sprucing it up, redesigning, organizing, decluttering, beautifying, investing a little bit more money. You might have to hire somebody to do this. Like the 6th house could be like gardeners, or it can be somebody who comes in to kind of clean and organize your home or decorate your home. It can be home care. So maybe you're having to pay somebody to come in and take care of pets, or just assist you with your everyday kind of tasks. Something that's interesting about this is also that there will be a trine that's going to be formed to Pluto in Aquarius in your 3rd house. So it's all about the way that you look at, communicate, and think about order and health and structure. So I'm wondering, with Pluto being here, do you enlist the help of somebody who's going to kind of help you start talking about your subconscious fears, desires, and emotions? Are you using health and fitness as a way out of you know, your head and things that are kind of bothering you that you've been kind of keeping inside? Is there new systems coming in? Do you have new software? Is there new systems that you're implementing at work? And is there a need to, like, you know, utilize this because it can make you more productive? So I think of like fast tracking, you know, making appointments on a website, people being able to directly contact you through social media. Is it possible that you're making residual income somehow off of like an online stream? Something like that can be coming in, where it's like you're learning how to be more productive, but you're doing it in a way that's somehow connected to like health or lifestyle. So really great time to set new intentions revolving around health and routines, especially if you're really looking to kind of break through some old habits and some old patterns, and just honestly come up with a good old to-do list, because that's what the 6th house is. We've got for you the 8 of Swords. So this energy is complex. It talks about being stuck, self-imposed prison, limiting and negative thoughts, victim mentality, helpless, powerless, or feeling victimized, which is not unusual when you have the sun in Taurus going through the 6th house. You're like, why does this always fall on me? The truth is that it's all about how you look at it. Okay, so I think the trines to Pluto is, yeah, there's a lot going on, there's a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, it's, you know, but I have work, but I have my health, but I am capable. I'm, you know, trying to see the world as glass is half full. I think that the Eight of Swords can talk about self-limiting ideas. And honestly, you've had several weeks of a Mercury retrograde here to work through what's my hang up? Am I disorganized? Do I not want to make the change? Am I having issues committing to a new lifestyle? You know, what needs to kind of shift there? And you've been getting a lot of feedback likely from other people, either at work or from partners, about how to be better. So much about the Eight of Swords is about kind of breaking out of that feeling of not being able to see your way out of a situation. So if you've had a work dilemma or crisis or a health issue, likely this new moon is saying, I'm not making excuses anymore. I'm really sticking to, you know, what I have decided to do. I have this routine and things that I fall back on so I can make sure that I'm staying on task. Okay. Good luck, Sag. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, we've got a new moon taking place in the sign of Taurus, which is a sister sign in your natal 5th house. Capricorn, I'm so excited for this new moon for you. It looks so amazing and creative and fun and playful and lovable. New moon taking place in your 5th house is all going to be about creativity, self-expression, dating, falling in love, children, or pregnancy. The 5th house is also about taking chances, gambling, and things that you may potentially win. So if you're somebody who's into gambling or anything like that, do be careful, be mindful of the squares that you'll see. But I do think it's possible that there is some sense of getting lucky, okay? And that can be in the love department. It doesn't have to be financially. But yeah, a new moon here is planting seeds revolving around, what do I love? What do I want to create? What do I enjoy doing? What hobbies do I have? Huge topic because you have Jupiter that just moved in, and all of these energies are gotta be trining something you have in Capricorn, because if you're a Capricorn sun, moon, or rising, you're experiencing a Jupiter trine, a North Node trine, a Uranus, a sun or a moon trine. Probably the strongest for the first 3 or 4 degrees and the last 3 or 4 degrees. If you're in the middle, that's okay. You still have Uranus trines, keeping your life probably pretty lively. But for the most part, the 5th house is what we create. So if you want to start a new hobby, if you want to launch a new business, if you're trying to get pregnant, if you're trying to kind of meet the love of your life, if you're trying to just get more creative in your daily routine and just experience more fun and all of what life has to offer, this is the new moon where you set those intentions. Now, at the time, like I said, it's ruled by Venus, and Venus is in your 7th house of relationships. So it's really kind of indicating that some of this fulfillment may come from romantic partners, partners in the home, relationships with family, having children, falling in love, committing further, and some expression of this coming through your relationships with your 7th house. Now, we're also going to see this new moon trine Pluto, which has been a bit of a troublemaker in recent years for you. It's going to be coming back into Capricorn pretty soon, but the trine from your 5th house to your 2nd house is what you're willing to involve yourself with or invest in or spend, or what power you have, right, over your happiness. So there can be a lot of like you going, it's worth buying the tickets to Disneyland. Yes, it's crazy expensive, but look at the look on my kid's face. Or it's worth investing that money into this new hobby because I really love painting or dancing or creating. And it gives you some sense of fulfillment, and also realizing that if you're willing to invest a little bit, to really give into some of those creative abilities, that you can create something really, really beautiful, really amazing, but it might also pay off as well. I could definitely see some people finding out within a 2-week period or within a 6-month period that something they initiated, that they started, that they really love could be a successful business. Some of you guys might get into trading. Some of you guys might start talking about family planning and expanding your family, or having your very first child. Let's take a look and see what the cards say for you. I wonder if this is also going to be about talents coming out into the open because Jupiter is there. So if you're naturally really funny or really creative, or you like to work with flowers or plants or crystals or jewelry, like all of this is now starting to come out and you have all this talent that's never been seen before. The card that I get for you is the Queen of Swords, which is super direct and knowledgeable and clear with communication and independent, intelligent, honest, direct. She's all about boundaries and constructive criticism. She also represents the signs of Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So I think it's interesting that you're going to have some trines between Gemini and Aquarius. I do feel like somebody like this can pop in that can give you some sense of direction. This can also be you saying, I love you, I love this, I'm doing this, I am, you know, an actor, I am a creative, I am an artist, and really kind of owning that now, and telling the world what it is that you are actively going to be building, right, and that you love. Good luck. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, we've got a new moon in Taurus taking place in your natal 4th house, which is all about your home, okay? So we're setting new intentions revolving around home, family, real estate, private life, and your roots. This is the most private kind of secretive part of the chart. It's hidden from the world. It can be about your inner emotional kind of feelings. It can be about a parent, but it can also be roommates, people you live with, you know, changing homes, looking for a new home, that kind of stuff. If you have been hoping to set intentions revolving around buying a new home, finding a new apartment, totally reorganizing or redesigning or refurnishing your space. If you have been wanting to move somebody in, move somebody out, that can come up. I think that it's interesting that at this time, Jupiter moves into your 4th house. So there already is this expansion of things going on with home and family. As I've said to all of the fixed signs, you're going to be feeling it because all of the fixed squares that are taking place, both with Jupiter's ingress and Mars ingress, life is going to get very loud, especially if you're like the first 5 degrees or so of Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Eventually, Aquarius, in 2024, Jupiter and Uranus will align, okay? And Uranus is one of your ruling planets. So something that you're going to see next year is Jupiter, which represents your goals. It's also friends, it's groups, and Uranus, which is you, will come into this meeting next spring, and there will be this explosion of this radical change in your living situation. Whether that's like buying land and living communally, you know, kids moving back in, you buying a big house, you're moving your in-laws in, something like that could happen. And there's going to be a huge change in your private life. So what you're going to start picking up with Jupiter's ingress and also this new moon is like, hey, like things are changing on the home front. You might have kids moving out, right? You might also have some static going on with a relative or a roommate. But this particular new moon is really trying to help bring stability to you because it's in a trine to Pluto. So Pluto in your sign is basically saying, I want change and transformation. I'm willing to kind of let something go and just let the cards kind of fall as they may. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen, and just being optimistic about some of the growth and the changes within your home. That's so important. Now, at the time of this particular new moon, it's also going to be ruled by Venus, and Venus is in your 6th house. So it can revolve around whether you're financially helping or emotionally supporting somebody in the family. It can revolve around disharmony in relationships and feeling like relationships are out of whack, they're out of balance. It can be about organizing your home, taking care of a parent, somebody who's dealing with some health-related issues, supporting them, taking care of a pet, bringing somebody in to care for your home, organize your home, redo your kitchen, help you find also a place if you're looking for like a real estate agent, or if you're looking for somebody to kind of help you manage your home finances or your property, somebody like that can come in from this as well. It's so positive, but I do feel very strongly that you're going to possibly have a hard time embracing some of these changes because Mars will oppose Pluto in your sign. So likely the changes are also going to affect a partner, a romantic partner, a spouse, or clients. And it's also going to come into opposition with the North Nodes. You're kind of shying away from like making it all about work and career. You're going through a personal transformation. Now you're seeing this happen within your home life, and it's definitely bringing up some stuff with partners. And yeah, life is going to get very active. If you haven't already seen my video that I did on Jupiter's ingress, take a look and listen to when I do my Mars video in Leo, because it'll be really helpful. And I would just say roll with the punches, be optimistic. What if some of the changes happening on the home front are actually going to end up being better than you ever expected? Just different. And if you're looking to move, relocate, expand your home, buy a new piece of property, or change something within the space, it's really positive. It's all about your vision for how you're looking at change and whether or not you're embracing change. The card that I got for you is the Knight of Cups. So this is about kind of wearing your heart on your sleeve, being emotional, sensitive, messages of, sharing how you're feeling. It's also creative and very romantic. It's great for artistic endeavors, but for being diplomatic and negotiating. So I think that that's maybe other relatives are going to step in. Maybe a parent steps in. Maybe like another person kind of pops in and is like, hey, everybody cool it, and like tries to be like the voice of reason. Maybe it's going to be like a friend that comes in to kind of help you through a difficult change that's going on within your home or your family that's there to support you. This can be a water sign. So Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces can kind of pop in also, that can kind of support you through some of these changes that are going on emotionally. But it looks positive with this tarot card. So let's go with that. Let me know, Aquarius. Let me know how it goes. Good luck. And then finally we have Pisces and Pisces rising. You'll be experiencing a new moon in Taurus. This will take place in your natal third house. The third house is all about education, basic communication, siblings, transportation, contracts, cars, gadgets. And so with a new moon in the third house, kind of the blanket statement is, if you want to sign a contract, if you want to move, if you want to buy a car, if you want to go on a trip, these are things that we start kind of initiating or planning around the time of the new moon. The third house can also be the mind and your ideas, and your traditional chart ruler Jupiter just moved into the third house, so likely you're traveling more, learning more, wanting to learn a new language. Maybe you are wanting to buy a new vehicle. Maybe you're investing a little bit of money in some kind of program that is about investing or money or resources. All of these energies in Taurus are sextiling Saturn in your sign, so you're really focusing on communication and getting the point across. Maybe you're doing some creative writing, or maybe you're learning about divination. And then you've also got all of these planets in Taurus sextiling planets in Cancer. So there is a sense of communicating and speaking from the heart, being really open and maybe like sharing more and talking more to family members or relatives and talking to them about how you feel. Siblings or neighbors may play more of an important role right now in kind of helping you work out what it is that you want, what your boundaries are, what you really love in life and where you're going. If you're wanting to set intentions revolving around moving, because the third house is movement, I could see that happening. Some of you guys have been anticipating, do I move? Do I hold off? Do I wait? Am I going to travel? And what's interesting is that, Venus at the time is in the sign of Cancer. So it is about home and resources, but it might mean that you're focusing more on like making a change because of children or because of a romantic partnership, or somebody's moving in or moving out. Maybe you're traveling to meet somebody where there's a romantic connection, or somebody who you've met is coming into town to spend time with you. Now, we're also going to see that this new moon is going to trine Pluto, and Pluto is technically in your 12th house right now. So having the new moon in the third house of the mind trine Pluto means that you're becoming aware of your subconscious thoughts. You're becoming aware of what's ending behind the scenes, what's transforming behind the scenes. Something is shifting with the world, with the node square Pluto in your 12th house. That's prompting you to want to speak up, start something, communicate, tell the world something, write something, teach communities. And so perhaps maybe you're feeling this call to be like, I'm going to write a book, or I'm going to, start a YouTube channel. So something about this new moon would be the kickoff point to be like, okay, now I'm going to start doing these things. So watch for changes. Third house kind of Gemini energy is like the junk drawer. There's like a multitude of different things that can kind of come through this, but Taurus is about what's grounded. So I like the fact that even though there's been a Mercury retrograde here, there's lots of support to Saturn, and there's also lots of support to Pluto. So whatever you've been kind of thinking or mulling over, now that the retrograde is over, now you're ready to initiate the conversation or launch the website or start writing something. Let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get for you is the King of Pentacles. I love this, especially with a new moon in Taurus. I was wondering who was going to get this. Practical leader, prosperity, business security, provider, abundance, protective, and also reliable. This can be a Taurus, a Virgo, or a Capricorn that pops in. But this can be you being like, we're putting the contract together. You know, we're coming up with the budget. We are creating the website. We're building the business. It's like really owning your ability to be practical and guided and have a sense of really working with like that Saturn energy. I think that's in your sign where you're really mature and making decisive decisions and thinking everything through before you initiate some kind of action. I wonder if you guys are going to get like a financial message or an offer, or if there is going to be an agreement that's going to be had as a result of this new moon that's bringing you in more stability or maybe even more resources. Now, those resources might come from siblings, vehicles, learning online, something like that. Like, once again, it can take about 6 months to fully unfold, but once it does, it's usually pretty significant. So I do feel like that's really mastering the way that you think about and also communicate your value, right? Okay, guys, hopefully it's a good one for you. Let me know. Really wanted to go in depth in this video and make sure that we covered all of our bases. Happy new moon in Taurus. I hope it's abundant as it looks to me. Let me know, where is this taking place in your natal chart? Is it your birthday? What are you feeling with some of these energies? I'd love to hear your guys' comments. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Any interaction with the channel, give me a thumbs up or leaving me a comment, especially if you're a first-time viewer, is really helpful in the algorithm and getting these videos out to my viewers. As always, also your guys' support means the world to me. It really helps this channel grow. You're helping me get closer and closer to my next goal, which is 20,000 subscribers. I'm less than about 2,000 subscribers away from that. So if you guys could please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. You're helping me inch towards my goal. Maybe we'll hit 50,000 by the end of the year. Maybe that's getting a little too optimistic. We'll see. You guys like my style of readings, you want to book a reading with me, click on the website below at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. You can check out my offerings. I would love to read for you. My schedule is live, so you guys can book. Otherwise, I will see all of you guys back here on Tuesday. We have so much stuff to talk about this week. I'm going to try to work on that other stock exchange video. If you have an interest in that, let me know. I would be happy to know that somebody wants to watch it. Okay, that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and you guys take care.